Chapter 5261. This is something that I haven't thought of before. The four great halls are the core subordinates of Qishan, just like those shaped existences, most of which are the core existence in the four great halls. Now that they have recovered, the others should have recovered, and now all of these people are removed from the four main halls and all are recruited into the Senate Palace. Isn't this dismantling the core layer of the past? The true spiritual purpose is not pure. These people are not the core, but now they are recruited into the Senate Palace, but they have become the core, which is equivalent to chasing after the master of the Qishan Temple. At the same time, on the bloodthirsty continent, there were thousands of true veterans who were the true cores of the four great halls. They were really drunk in the Azure Dragon Hall and ate the unique food on the bloodthirsty continent. Once this hissed out, they banished them to the void. The Xuanwu Temple is okay. Xian Yi's character has always been calm and unmoving on the surface. He has mobilized an army of puppets in private to firmly control the third world. Even he felt that this true spirit was about to rebel. Fortunately, he didn't tell the true spirit everything. Among the four main halls, his Xuanwu Hall was able to build puppets, and there were secrets in it, but fortunately he didn't say all of them. The White Tiger Palace was fighting everywhere to clean up the four secret realms. The true spirit had also come to help them clean up once, and also awakened so many elders at once, and the people in the White Tiger Palace were very moved. I felt that the real spirit was also very easy to talk, but turned around and made something that was not done by humans. Fortunately, he doesn't have those veterans here, and it's useless to stay if his strength is too weak. Traitor! Zhu Yiqiang resisted the impulse and glanced at the people below with a dark face. This look shocked everyone. Zhu Yi was the first seat of the Vermilion Bird Palace. When the Qishan refined the four first seats, she spent a lot of thought on it. Her power is not only the Sixth Order Emperor. Powerhouses of this level, let alone them now, even if they were at their peak, they can still ravage them at will. The two sides confronted each other like this. Qiu Huang had small eyes, like mung beans. It was so sudden just now that the wine he had just drunk in his mouth didn't even swallow, and he couldn't help but squirt out directly. Ha! Zhu Yi snorted coldly, and his figure disappeared above the hall in a flash. She is going to ask True Spirit, what is this going to do? Separation? The power of the True Spirit is the greatest, and now this one is to completely dismantle the former core four halls and re-establish the Qishan Temple. This news shocked the inside of Qishan Temple, but it did not affect the cruelty on the original star. Thousands of devouring demon lords waited in a serious array. The formation was set, only Jian Wushuang was outside the city, and there were tens of thousands of pairs of eyes on the wall, watching all this. There is a haze in the big, dead sky outside today's style. Jian Wushuang stood in the air without a sword in his hand. At this time, he didn't use any treasures, but his thought power had been condensing, and his thought power was flooded in the surrounding millions of miles. Every trace of thought power is like a long sword, and hundreds of millions of thought power are billions of long swords. My heart is the only one. Jian Wushuang sighed with emotion in his heart. The fifth level of mental strength is really not that simple. Now that his mental strength, mind strength, and kendo are all in a bottleneck state, this makes him very anxious, and the three are the only one. The only point today is in kendo. It seems that kendo spans everything, but in fact his current kendo is like a human eye, shrinking to the extreme. It is too difficult to break. Thousands of devouring demon lords rushed out of the black mist. After this army rushed out, the black fog was lightened a lot. It seems that the devouring demon lord has already appeared for the most part, and the rest is estimated to be those 4 or even 5 stars. The devouring of the devil. Of course there are 6 stars and even 7 stars. Zhu Xian. Jian Wushuang shouted angrily. Before the devouring demon lord struck, there were 18 long swords instantly condensed around him. Go with 18 long swords, turned into a long rainbow, running through the world. The unparalleled immortal formation used by the ultimate kendo, unparalleled in ancient times, penetrates everything. The streamer that the long sword turns into is constantly dividing, from 18 handles to 36, 72, to the last 3,600 swords. Jian Wushuang's strongest Zhu Xian formation now is the 18 Phantom Sword. But to deal with these 3-star devouring demon lord, the strongest Zhu Xian array has the effect of slashing flies with a big knife, which is very difficult. It's better to separate out and maximize the Zhu Xian array. Although the overall power becomes weaker, it is the best to deal with these devouring demon lords. 3,600 phantom swords spread over the sky, forming a huge sword formation. Haha! The sword formations were interspersed first, and after crushing hundreds of thousands of devouring demon lords, they stood upright one after another, forming a 6-pointed star shape from above. At this time, Zhu Xian, today, slay the demons. Jian Wushuang turned into 3,000, got up and entered the battle. Take the 3,000 stars busy, open the perfect fairy array. The 3,600 swords fell into the devouring army and turned into a huge star sword catalog. The catalog keeps rotating, and the power that it radiates has caused the devouring monarchs above to fall one after another. This is the trial of the immortal in the ultimate immortal formation. After the 10,000 devouring demon entered the formation, both feet unconsciously fell on the formation map, and the whole body began to sink continuously. For a time, the first 2 rows of devouring demon lords, all 400,000 were trapped in a large formation, and they were strangled clean. This caused everyone on the wall to take a breath. There is even a whole card. Tearing the sky couldn't help blurting out. Mo Long stood above the city wall, leading the people behind him. There was excitement and fear in his eyes. He could not forget the phantom sword that Jian Wushuang used, which once forced him into a desperate situation. At the beginning, Jian Wushuang's strength was still comparable to him, but now, in only 3 years, the difference in strength is actually like this. If he was among the 10,000 devouring demon lord, he would have no chance of turning over and he would be besieged to death, but Jian Wushuang could block the 10,000s alone. This kind of terrorist combat power, showing a powerful background, is absolutely invincible. They could see that the strength of the sword formation threatened the Limit Dian Immortal the most, but no one of them was able to maintain such a huge sword formation and strangling the 3 stars to devour the devil. The force needed by this large array every moment is an astronomical figure. 1 breath can consume the energy stored by a Taoist monarch, which was calculated by Jian Wushuang. Although they can't see it, they can also feel Tao. Jian Wushuang maintained for only a few breaths, his own power dropped sharply, his limit was a stick of incense, but if it really reached that point, he himself would be finished. Ready to meet the enemy? Jian Wushuang reminded, and then contracted the large formation, and the 3,600 swords instantly merged into 960 swords. In just this time, with the absolute immortal formation, he killed almost 2 million devouring demon lords. Now after shrinking twice, he can still block 4 million, and the remaining 4 million is really impossible to block. Dear, click in, give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that the new full marks are found at the end of the beautiful wife. The new revision and upgrade address of the mobile station, data and bookmarks are synchronized with the computer station, and fresh reading without ads. Chapter 5262. He also wants to earn more treasures, but his strength does not allow it. After the sword formation narrowed down, the devouring demon lord was like a dam bursting, turning into a scourge, rushing to Qiu Huang City. Standing in the middle of the city wall, Dao Xingtian, his eyes filled with madness, his hands changed and turned scarlet. Kill! 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 Tens of thousands of people formed a line of defense to meet the millions of devouring demon lord who rushed over. The monarch of Tier Heaven was the first to bear the brunt, and one person rushed out, turned into a streamer, and could not see his figure, but he could see several claw marks that tore the void left in the sky. Countless claw marks remain in the sky for a long time. Each claw caused thousands of devouring demon lords to fall, and when converted into the most precious point, it was 1,000 points. How can this not make the tearing sky crazy? Soon, the defensive line collided with the devouring demon lord, and 1 out of 10 top-level Dian Immortals had a pinnacle of great immortality. Among the 10 peak Great Fairy Immortals, there will be another extreme Great Fairy Immortal. As for those generals and half-walking monarchs, they are walking around the city wall they are responsible for. If there is a gap, they will go there to fill it up. They are willing to waste a moment of time, and even burn the divine body to double their speed and power. Fight. A pinnacle Dayan immortal took the initiative to lead people to burn the divine body, and began to work hard. The God Emperor Mo Long, who was in charge of this side, cursed, "You are crazy, this is just the beginning, is it burning the origin?" Boom. After smashing out a punch and repelling hundreds of devouring demon lords, Mo Long rushed to this side and quickly cleaned up the thousands of devouring demon lords surrounding him. He also suffered some injuries and quickly took out 2 Shenyan stones. Just hold one by one and absorb it crazy. He followed his father and had a lot of knowledge. This God Growth Crystal is very rare in the outside world, but it is cheap in the Temple of the Gods. A treasure can restore its strength. After he recovered, Mo Long looked at the few Dayan immortals with broken bodies and sighed and turned and left. As soon as they collided, they burned their origins. Originally, he wanted to say something, but after seeing their miserable situation, he realized that the current form surpassed their cognition. Of the 10 top Dayan immortals, 7 have fallen, and the remaining 3 divine bodies are damaged, and nearly 30% of the origin has been extracted. I don't know how many years or how many treasures it will take to repair in the future. That pinnacle powerhouse was okay, but he burned part of his source and was not swallowed. This time the rate of fall is faster than the previous total. It was only a quarter of an hour after the fight that suffered heavy casualties. Now there are millions of troops outside the city. No matter how fast Jian Wushuang kills, it will take a long time. Can he withstand it? It's really good, it's worth installing after all, you can cache books and read them offline. Compared with the others, their team was lucky. In the attack just now, many teams all fell, and no one was spared. Jian Wushuang, the core of the battlefield, ran a large formation wholeheartedly, constantly eroding these devouring demon monarchs, and he was relieved for a while. Millions of devouring demon lords were all playing with applause, playing them round and round. My devouring power has become stronger again. Jian Wushuang's heart moved. After the strangulated devouring demon lord was swallowed by him, he obviously felt that it was several times stronger than before. If it swallows a complete origin path, his extreme path can obtain at least 3 cost sources. It's a pity that now there is no source for him to swallow, only these demon kings can be swallowed, and the increase is only the swallowing power, which also fills the hunger in his heart by the way. It's time! Jian Wushuang's heart moved. The universe is infinite, Xian Huang is one. One thought of the universe. Do whatever you want. At this moment, the universe of one mind was huge, and even the black mist was wrapped in it. Jian Wushuang used all his mind power, and the universe of one mind was as long as 30 million miles in diameter. This is the limit today. In the universe of one mind, the power of the phantom sword has become more powerful, and the energy consumed has also increased a lot. Jian Wushuang turned over and took out a pot of dirty wine. This was exchanged from Qiu Huangli, and it was worth tens of thousands of treasures. An ordinary Dayan immortal only needed a drop to instantly recover from a dying state. The value of this pot can be imagined. If the Shen Yanjing used by God Emperor Mo Long was the cabbage in the ground, then the turbid wine in his hand was the dragon meat in the sky. The incomparable sweet smell made Jian Wushuang's appetite wide open. He raised his head and poured into his mouth, his whole body exuding a pale golden light. Jian Wushuang took a big sip, making his whole person almost swelled. Minute. In one word, 960 swords, instantly transformed into 3,600 swords, and then divided into 7,200 swords. At this moment, the universe is full of terrifying sword intent. That's how it is called, the sword spirit is full of the world. Jian Wushuang's mouth turned upward. Originally, he didn't want to be so wasteful, but now the kendo is loose, and he hasn't fought desperately for a long time. Now he wants to see how strong his limit state is. 3,600 swords can stop 10 million, and now there are only 7 million on the field. He has to see how long these 7,200 swords can hold and kill the devouring monarch. A large number of devouring demon lords outside the city wall squeezed their bodies one by one, trying to rush to the city wall, but after feeling the breath behind, turned their heads and rushed straight to Jian Wushuang's position. That breath makes them even more crazy. Although almost 2 million devouring demon lords had been withdrawn, the form of the first city wall was still not very good. After all, devouring demon lords who were withdrawn were only those from the rear, and the fighting in front was still fierce. Especially at the very edge of the city wall, where the line of defense was the weakest. The general in charge here had been seriously injured, his divine body was broken, and one person resisted tens of thousands of devouring demon lords. Originally, there were more than 3,000 Dian Immortals in his line of defense, but now there are only a few hundred people left. Half of them are pinnacle Dian Immortals, and they are now the most elite Dian Immortals. It's all at this time. If you don't burn the origin, just wait for death, the general roared. It's time to kill, and he still wants to preserve his strength. If it weren't for the rules not to kill each other, he really wanted to slash these people with a knife. Especially those few extreme Dian Immortals, the strongest but also the most afraid of death. As long as 100, they will bypass other people and change their positions privately. This section of the city wall is now precarious and cannot be held at all. The devouring demon lord of this section of the city wall alone has 100,000. Hundreds of them couldn't stop them, and they were soon forced to the barrier. This is the first time they have been forced to this position. Jie Jie. The devouring demon rushed up, and the walls at this time were crowded with devouring demon, a total of 7 to 80,000. Taoist Tier Heaven has been walking around other city walls to maintain balance. Now that he sees the situation here, he can't help cursing in his heart. Can only go to support at full speed through the air. A hole is opened. Once these people have fallen, the devouring demon lord can turn into a big mouth, biting off the Dian Immortal on the entire city wall. By then, the people will die and the city wall will be broken. No, even if their city wall was scrapped, they were all forced to retire. Chapter 5263. Within the scope of Yinyan universe, Jian Wushuang clearly perceives and also finds the gap. A total of 7,200 swords rose up instantly. Go with! Jian Wushuang shouted angrily, and the Ju Xian formation broke through the air and left, and began to lean towards the city wall. From the beginning, he never thought that these people would be able to hold on. Not to mention 2 million, even if it is 1 million, it is very difficult for them to guard. Now he has to rely on himself. The city wall cannot be broken. If he breaks it, he will give up all his previous achievements. At least he has to get through the 11th wave and let the candle dragon wings and the candle dragon eyes merge with each other. There is only one crystal source, which is his primary goal today. Therefore, he has already considered this 9th wave. If it is not possible, he will defend the city wall with a sword formation. He is alone, using the law of heaven and earth to stop the remaining devouring demon lord. Once he loses the sword formation, he can only use the power of the origin and the divine body to stop those devouring demon kings. At that time, he would not have any greater means of killing, and the speed of killing these devouring demon kings would become very slow, and he would also be in desperate situation. Big! Jian Wushuang's figure expanded from 10,000 battles to tens of thousands of battles, but his Buddha's huge speed did not slow down, stopping millions of devouring demon lords in front of Huang City. Now there are only more than 2 million people attacking the city. With the absolute immortal formation, he only needs to resist for 1 hour. 1 hour is enough to kill all the devouring demon kings who are attacking the city. Really looking for death. Tin Tian also noticed Jian Wushuang's side, especially seeing the sword array landing on the city wall, helping others to guard the city wall. Without this method, Jian Wushuang himself fell into the army, which was very dangerous. Once his strength was lost too much and his strength weakened, he would be in danger of falling. Burn all the origins, resist me, or I will die. Torn the sky roared, and smoothly dragged several cowardly warriors into the devouring monarch behind them, their figures instantly turned into a blood mist, and in the end even their breath was swallowed by those devouring monarchs. He himself also took the lead in burning the origin, and at the expense of the divine body he madly beheaded the devouring demon lord who had climbed the city wall. If Jian Wushuang couldn't hold it, they would really be finished. Taoist tier heaven knows the current form very well. Once the city wall is broken, even if they survive, they will not be able to participate in the subsequent battles, and the second stage of the trial will be over. Another line of defense broke. Fortunately, there are sword formations constantly strangling those devouring demon lords who want to tear the enchantment, otherwise they will really be broken. It is like Jian Wushuang, who is Qing Tian, his arms stretched out to be 1,000,000 miles long. In Yin Yan universe, his strength has increased several times. Although there is no sword formation, his divine body has reached 8,000 times. The origin of Jidao is extremely strong. Even if he burns the power of the origin for an hour, he will not be damaged in the slightest. With the exception of Jian Wushuang on the 4 major walls, life on the other walls was not easy. Outside the city walls of Lingshuang and Blood Moon Taoist, the Scarlet Domain and the Frost Snow World overlapped, and the methods of both were similar, and they could barely hold on. Moreover, in addition to the two, there is also one person who also has the power of Daojun, a cold spear, shuttles the battlefield, and the world of killing is turbulent. The Dian Immortal on the city wall is also much higher than the configuration on the East City. At least the number of people is a complete victory. After fighting for so long, there are still 50,000 people. Among them, there are 10 half-trail monarchs. For a time, they actually blocked the 10,000 devouring demon lord. If Jian Wushuang knew, he would definitely vomit blood. The gap would be too great. The situation of the Wanqing Tiandi was better than them. One person was in charge of all directions, and the Great Seal instantly destroyed hundreds of thousands of devouring demon lords. Announcement: Mimi reading gap. The Dian Immortal on the city wall didn't lose much at all. This powerful combat power shocked everyone watching. As for Hui Qing and Ji Chaoyang, the situation is somewhat reversed. Today the city walls are in jeopardy. Hui Qing stopped 5 million devouring demon lord alone, and Ji Chaoyang also stopped more than 3 million on the wall. But it didn't help. The city wall would have to be broken sooner or later, especially the fallen Dian Immortal. Originally, their strength was the most complete. In the 9th wave, there were almost 70,000 people. Now they have fallen in less than an hour. 50,000. It's over. Ji Chaoyang rescued everywhere and did not help. He has made a breakthrough in the origin of space, and the increased combat power is not enough to reverse the universe. He bursts out desperately and is the top power among Dao sovereigns. In such battle conditions, it would be difficult to reverse the power of the emperor without a half-step. Hui Qing, Ji Chaoyang whispered. Seeing Hui Qing turned into the head of a monk and stopped 5 million to devour the devil, he was embarrassed to open his mouth. Ji Chaoyang glanced at the fearful Dian Immortals and shouted angrily, "It's all rubbish." In fact, when they tried their best at the beginning, they were not so miserable. The bad thing is that those protected by the two of them are too good. Now that the real fight, some dare not to burn the original source to fight, so that there is no time to display their strength and they fall. At this time, these people haven't reacted yet. If you don't look at the current form, you will die if you don't fight. Broken. The spear was like a dragon. After rushing away tens of thousands of devouring demon lords, Ji Chaoyang once again went to other broken lines of defense. His form here is more tragic than Jian Wushuang's side, but his strength and tearing the sky is the same, and it doesn't play much role at all. Hui Qing, who swallowed the devil in the depths, was bathed in sacred light, shining on the heavens and the earth. The power of reincarnation is almost infinite. He is invincible. One stick stirred the situation and killed tens of thousands of devouring demon lord. Looking back, the city wall was already in ruins. Hui Qing sighed in a low voice. He has seen this scene. That is the battlefield of bones in the great wilderness. In just over 10 years, he changed from being a little novice to a peerless Tianjiao now, and even the temple of Qishan did not hesitate to pass it down to him. but only he knows all kinds of past lives. In exchange for the bravery of this life. The last time a few masters fell, and Jian Wushuang desperately helped him, he survived. At that time, he was even more desperate, but eventually he survived. Jian Wushuang was able to save him under those circumstances. What a huge determination this was. Now that the position has been changed, he has hesitated to save people. He still remembers the last scene of the inheritance of an old man with a fleshy beard on the corner of his mouth. Child, fate reincarnation, you and I have a future, you can't hide from this disaster. After the old man left this sentence, there was a golden hoop in his heart. Fuck the magic circle. In addition to all demons in the world, the demons sit in the heart. For greater goodness. Hui Qing yelled in her heart, and the golden hoop rose instantly, flew out of her heart, and appeared on his forehead. At this moment, golden light appeared in his eyes, and these devouring demon kings turned into filthy things in his eyes. Damn it all. The long stick smashed down again, killing 1,000,000 and devouring the devil in one move. This huge breath broke the battlefield. Chapter 5264. The devourers felt the breath and fled one after another, trying to bypass Hui Qing to attack the city, but the long sticks didn't give them this opportunity at all, dancing again, directly annihilating countless devourers. Jie Jie. They are beginning to be scared. This scene has never happened before, and even if they are beheaded, they have no regrets or regrets. But now I am scared. What's afraid of is the breath on Hui Qing's body. Fumo. The city wall. Countless people shake. Hui Qing's strength exploded in an instant, and it was so strong. This is not comparable to the emperor, it is clearly the emperor. One breath strangles millions. Just a cup of tea time. In this piece of heaven and earth, there is no more devouring demon lord. Standing on the city wall, Ji Chaiyang stared at Hui Qing in a daze. The breath was so strange that it made him feel jealous. Hui Qing. Ji Chaiyang cried tentatively. Hui Qing outside the city put away the long stick, and once the golden hoop was worn, it was impossible to untie it. With it, the thoughts of hatred and hatred filled Hui Qing's mind. This evil is not a simple devil, but an evil that devours the devil. All the choppy that swallowed. He turned around and came to the city wall. When he saw Ji Chaiyang, he nodded faintly and rushed back to his previous character. After not finding anything wrong, Ji Chaiyang breathed a sigh of relief. Their wall is probably the fastest wall on all primitive stars to end the battle. With the first one, there will be a second one. It's just that now, no matter how they fight, they haven't been able to attract the attention of Qishan Temple. Because at this time, the universe of Qishan Temple is full of evil spirits. The head of the 4 main halls came personally, and there were 3 guardians. The fighting power of the 7 and 6 tier emperors. If you are outside, let alone the primitive universe, you can walk sideways even in the long river of time and space. At present, the time and space of the original universe is in Long Hanoi, but there is no one at the peak of the universe, and the 6th Order Emperor is really walking sideways. In addition to these people, there are more than 2,000 elders who have been moved in. All the elders who were assigned to the 4 main halls came. These people looked at each other and stood aside without saying anything. The other 7 are murderous. Master True Spirit, this matter is not in compliance with the rules, and there are too many discrepancies with the owner. I will forgive it. The first, white one, in the talking White Tiger Palace among the 4 halls, he advocated crusade. Although the 4 secret realms have been crusade and suppressed, the combat power is not weak at all. Once in the 4 secret realms, he killed a rebellious 6th Order indigenous emperor. His words still have a lot of weight. Zhu Yi controls the great treasure house of the primordial world, and Long Yi is responsible for running the temple of Qishan. Xian Yi is the most mysterious. He has built his nest in the outer world. There are hundreds of domains, and 10 of them have been created by him. No one knows how many powerful puppets there are. Not only puppets, but also formations. Xian is the top master, surpassing the former master. These 4 talents are the real core of the Qishan Temple, and almost all the treasures in the Qishan Temple are in the hands of the 4. As for the guardians, look at me and I will look at you. They didn't have anything, they had a fighting strength. Zhen Ling blew his beard and stared, flicked his sleeves and exclaimed, "Pick a lantern in broad daylight, what are you looking at?" The spirit guard crouched, trying to speak, but was interrupted by the true spirit. "Do you know, what should you do?" "Subordinates know that, take care of the master's body." Zhen Ling said with a cold face and continued, "Then you know who you are." "No. The subordinates are spirit guards." The spirit watcher didn't know what the real spirit was doing for a while, so he had to answer 1 to 5 to 10. "Oh, you knew it." Zhen Ling sneered, and then sternly said with his face, "I know what you are still doing here, go back to the tomb of God, other things wait for me to notify." Zhen Ling's roar shocked everyone else. Many of them clearly felt the breath that just radiated, that it was the breath of the origin of the universe, and it was an extremely powerful origin of the universe. This is the master of the universe, who is the pinnacle of the universe. The guardian trembled in his heart, his figure bent down a lot, and then he didn't dare to say a word. He concealed his figure and disappeared into the sea of the universe. After the 3 spirit guards retreated, Zhen Ling's complexion eased, and when he turned his head to look at the 4 hall masters, he leaked a smile. Ahem, just a few slaves, everyone laughed. True spirit changed from normal, and even took the initiative to bow. This made several hall masters feel incredible, secretly guessing in their hearts, what this old man is doing. Seeing the strange smile on Zhen Ling's face, the veterans couldn't help but shrink their necks. Even those spirit guards who used to be the personal guards of the gods do not have the qualifications to speak, even less. Moreover, it seems that they are still on the side of the real spirit, and it is good for them to establish a senior palace. At least they will have rights in the future. Don't say that they have the courage to refute. Even if they have the courage, they will not refute the true spirit, but stand firmly on the side of the true spirit. For the first seat of the White Tiger Hall, the Lord Bai's face is pale, but he bit his head and said, "Master True Spirit, the master set the core for refining the 4 main halls back then. This really cannot be changed." The others followed suit and bowed. "I know, I never want to change anything, but the current Temple of Qishan still needs other powers, these elders. Which of these elders are not heroes who have shed blood for the Temple of Qishan? They should have recovered long ago, and regained their vitality. Re-enter the 4 secret realms. And the establishment of the Senate Palace is urgent." After I have finished speaking, who is for? Who is against? Zhen Ling stretched out his hands. One side is tens of millions of yuan, and the other is the old core 4 halls. As soon as he said this, his aura instantly stood up. Those veterans are excited, and they will definitely support it. As for the 4 halls, I'm afraid. Zhu Yi stood up at this moment and was the first to speak. "I follow the master's death." After hearing this, the Lord of the White Tiger snorted, disappeared and left here. "I have no objection." Long Yi had no confidence, and there were no people under him. Not as strong as the White Tiger Palace, Zhu Yi did not have the confidence to control the treasure house, and even less profound than Xian. Originally, he was very opposed to this matter. As the core of the 4 halls, it has been the rules for many years, and now the Palace of the Elders has suddenly been added. Isn't this dividing the forces in the Temple of the Gods? But in the face of the powerful true spirit, he can only bow his head. Standing at the back, Xian Yi leaked a smile and nodded slightly, agreeing. 3 to 1, this is the case. Since Bai Yi questioned my order, let him go to the tomb of the gods and guard the body of the old master. With a light and fluttering sentence, Zhen Ling sent the White Tiger Temple to the desolate tomb of the gods. Of the 4 secret realms, the most mysterious is the tomb of the gods, and the most desolate is the tomb of the gods. Chapter 5265. This is considered to be Bai, sent to the frontier. Just after suppressing the rebellion in the 4 great secret realms, the real spirit will unload the grit and kill the donkey. This caused those veterans to take a breath, so unfeeling and crazily suppressing the old forces. It seems that true spirit is determined to cleanse the internal forces of the Temple of Qishan. They are all human spirits, and they understand the true spirit's intentions. This time is also their opportunity. With the decline of established forces, they took the opportunity to rise. Restore the peak. Okay, things are settled like this. You are all busy people. I won't keep you here. Let's go and work on your own. The trial of primordial realm ends as soon as possible. The real practice is the 4 secret realms, not primitives. Xing, as for the immortal in the outer world, I think he will stay in the Xuanwu Hall first, cultivated by Xuanyi himself, and then transfer to the primitive realm when he arrives at Dian Immortal. The real spirit's voice was gentle, and it was just a word to dismiss them. For these stubborn puppets, the true spirits look down on them from the bottom of their hearts. Even if you have the 7-orifice exquisite heart and your mind is far beyond normal, it is not a human being, after all, it is just a puppet. After the hall masters stepped back, the true spirit turned to face the elders, revealing a kind of smile. Everyone, you all have contributed to the successful completion of the Qixin Temple. I will now honor the promise I left back then and regain my identity in the Senator Palace. I can go to the 4 secret realms. There are my people over there. The true spirit's voice paused and then said, after your identity is restored, you will be rewarded according to your merits. Don't worry, everything you have done will not be forgotten by the Temple of God. A group of elders bowed solemnly to thank them and then gradually disappeared. They are weak now and still can't come and go freely. It is the true spirit that transports them to the 4 secret realms. After all these people left, Zhen Ling's expression became serious. Xian Yi, the master of the Xuanwu Temple who had left, reappeared in the Sea of Origin. Zhen Ling was not surprised when he saw the incoming person, but said politely, Xian Yi, that senior, after all left it to you, now you can do it. Master True Spirit, don't worry. The 2 figures flickered and appeared in the most central part of the Origin Sea, where there was an emerald green palace. After entering the palace, the 2 sat opposite each other, and a teapot appeared out of thin air on the jade table in front of them. After Zhen Ling himself poured a cup of tea for Xian Yi, he poured himself another cup. It's okay now. After Xian Yi looked around for a while, he still said a little worried, this matter is too much related. Don't worry, there is time and space in this temple, and it has been independent of time and space. It is one of the strongest treasures in the Temple of Qi, you can rest assured. The true spirit said solemnly. After taking a sip of tea slowly, Xian nodded his head a little before he could tell the secret thing. After Zhen Ling heard this, his flesh was vacant and his eyes were dull. Xian Yi also shook his head silently. He was originally the same as the other 3 hall masters, they were all puppets refined by the gods, although he was bestowed with 7 orifices exquisite heart, but he knew that he was not a practitioner at all. The Qixin gave him only a 7-orifice exquisite heart, and the senior gave him a complete life. The divine body, origin, and physical body are the keys to practice. Real people are not those that can be represented, feelings, wisdom, and thinking. I understand, can you still contact that senior now? Zhenling asked again. Xian Yi shook his head, out of his own guess. That senior is probably not a practitioner of today, but a strong man who will control time and space in the future. He traveled through the long river of time, came to the primitive universe, entered the Temple of Qixin, and the outside world has his breath. Future. Rao is really knowledgeable and has inherited most of the memories of Qixin, but he still feels incredible. The powerhouse who masters time and space can travel through time and be truly immortal. Why does such a strong man come back to this long river of time that is drying up? The true spirit is a little confused, and also chose to come here at this time. There is not even a master of the universe. What is the purpose of coming here? With so many rivers in the starry sky, I just came here, and also led the Temple of Qixin to this. What is all this for? Do you know the name of that senior? Xian Yi shook his head, but thought of one thing and said, the senior seems to have deliberately concealed himself. He used my name in the outside world. Shuttle time, it seems that there is still scrupulousness, even if you master time and space, you must not change the things of this era. Jinling guessed. These methods are too unbelievable and he is just guessing. Master True Spirit, let's solve the immediate matter. Since the senior is willing to remind, then we can change some things in the future, and we can't just wait and die. Xian Yi frowned, and that incident would indeed affect the overall situation, and even completely collapse the Temple of Qixin. Migrate first. Junling sighed. His migration is not as simple as leaving the original universe, but leaving this long river of time and space. Drifting in the chaotic and unknown time and space turbulence to other time and space rivers. Xian changed his eyes and blurted out, "Migration?" "Correct. We have no choice but to migrate first. If what the predecessor said is true, we must migrate. The main body fell back then and cannot be changed. Now that the catastrophe is coming, we can escape if we can't change it." After True Spirit took the attention, his eyes became firm. The two fell silent and drank tea in silence. Because of that incident, he was not allowed to pull out the waste and build the Senate Palace. All this is to prepare for other time and space after the migration. The Temple of Qixin is a mobile treasure house, and there are no strong men under his men. How can he defend this family business? In front of that incident, the trial looked a little pale and weak. Primitive world. Qiu Huangqing. Hui Qing was the first to finish, and then Wanqing. The other two walls still fought hard to resist. Blood Moon and Lingshuang Daojun increased a lot in strength, and the two of them could barely compete with each other. It was not a problem to defend the walls. Jian Wushuang is at stake here. With the absolute immortal array, plus the 20,000 remnants of Dian Immortal, facing close to 3 million devouring demon lord, he still couldn't fully defend it. The majestic Jian Wushuang, while entangled the devouring demon lord who was constantly attacking the enchantment, also stopped the remaining 5 million devouring demon lord. Yes, he alone fought the devouring demon lord on the entire battlefield. Tear! This person is simply a waste. He really doesn't understand how a Taoist strongman is so wasteful, can't share it at all, like a headless fly, ramming around. The sword formation and magical powers consume a lot of him, but the speed of strangulation is slower than the beginning. When this continues, how long will he have to kill? It seems that I have to do that. Chapter 5266. Outside Qiuhuang City. The battle is endless. The towering idol fell into the devouring demon lord, and countless people fought battles on the wall. The color of Sora changed into blood at this moment. Absolute immortal sword formation, exuding endless power, and that unmatched aura. On the city wall, every Dian Immortal is desperate. Buzzing. A body gleaming with a faint golden light rushed up, wearing a high crown and a majestic face. It is God Emperor Malong. Burning divine body. The original divine body, which was more than 1,000 times, soared to 3,000 times in an instant, and the source and the divine body burned together, making his strength approaching Daojun. Dead. The divine fist that shook the ground smashed towards the devouring demon lord. Thousands of devourers were smashed and flew out, giving hundreds of people behind him a breath, but it was only a breath, and the next moment was devouring demon sea. Divine Emperor Mo Long fell into the demon sea again, and his entire body was covered with golden light under the Black Sea. The top 10 generals, the first to fall, was God Emperor Malong. The stronger the combat power he exploded, the more he could attract the devouring demon's crazy attack. Hundreds of thousands of 3-star devouring demon besieged. Even if he burst out of the power of the Taoist at the last moment, he was still consumed to death. Hundreds of great peak fairy immortals who originally followed Mo Long, seeing the tragedy in front of them, burst out all their surplus, resisting desperately, wanting to be dragged to the rescue. The blood claw was torn, breaking 10,000 in one blow. Quickly, come here to withstand this. Tearing angrily. Several half-walkers filled the vacancies again, as if no one had fallen here. The corpses of the devouring demon were all strangled and swallowed by the sword array, and the flesh of Dian Immortal was also absorbed by the devouring demon. Although the battlefield was crowded with people, at the end, there was no need to clean the battlefield at all. The entire battlefield was cleaner than before, but under Qiuhuang City, a lot of abysses appeared. The top 10 generals fell one after another, and the remaining peak, Dian Immortal, was simply unable to resist. The 3-star Devouring Demon Lord is equivalent to the top-level Dayan Immortal. In addition, the power of the Devouring Dayan Immortal is soaring. Some 3-star Devouring Demon Lord, absorbing a Dayan Immortal Queen, instantly stepped up and becoming a 4-star Devourer. A peak Dayan Immortal can withstand at most a dozen top-level Dayan Immortals. Once it exceeds hundreds of Dayan Immortals, there is a danger of falling. Nowadays, there are more than 10,000 big fairy immortals on the wall, and each person on average can withstand more than 200 heads to devour the devil. However, among the more than 10,000 people, only a few thousand peak Dayan Immortals, and more than half are top-level Dayan Immortals, of the same rank as the Devouring Demon Lord. Can't resist at all. Tear to rescue while observing Jian Wushuang. Give some help. You have exchanged the candle dragon wings, and you have given you everything, but you have some help. Tyr is very entangled now. He even has a trace of regret. If he sold the candle dragon claw on his body to Jian Wushuang, would the current situation be better? Once the city was broken, they all ruined their chances. But give away the treasure. Get your teeth. He doesn't regret it. After losing this treasure, his combat power will drop by at least 1 level, and even Dao Jun can't maintain it, no matter how strong Jian Wushuang is. What about passing through the 9th wave? In the end, it's not cheaper for others. Thinking of this, I felt firm that Jian Wushuang was too wasteful. This matter had nothing to do with him. He had the ability to cut him off in the first stage, and he had nothing to say. There is no door to let him hand over. The brutality on the wall exceeded Jian Wushuang's imagination. The 9th wave of Devouring Demon Lord was far more fierce than he had imagined. Although the number is only 10 times more than the 8th wave, in terms of difficulty, it is not 10 times, but 100 or even 1,000 times. In the 8th wave of offense, he was able to attract hundreds of thousands, and the rest would not attack him at all, and attack the city wall in a brainstorming manner. Of course, at that time he had the idea of preserving his strength, and now he is going all out to face the 10,000 Devouring Demon Lord, which actually forced him to this point. Fa Xiangdi, on the verge of collapse. These Devouring Demon Lords are like mice, biting an ancient giant crocodile. 1 or 2 couldn't break the defenses, but under the combined force of millions, even Jian Wushuang's crazy armor began to appear cracks. This is the first treasure. The Xianzibo that Dayan Immortal couldn't damage at all. It would be very difficult for the Emperor to damage it, but now it was eaten by these rats. Absolute Immortal. Jian Wushuang's heart moved, and he didn't dare to hold it big anymore. He directly retracted the Ju Xian formation, protected his body around him, and dispelled the devouring monarchs who had surrounded him. But he recalled the sword formation, and the city wall was instantly slaughtered. When there was a sword formation, the 20,000 Dayan Immortals struggled to resist, and the loss was always very large, but the Devouring Demon Lord kept flowing. Without the help of the sword formation, they couldn't resist at all, retreated all the way to the edge of the barrier, leaking a look of despair. Jian Wushuang. Tear around to rescue, he can't stop it. On the vast ocean, he is an ancient beard, and he can't swallow this black wave. He can only let these devouring demons pass by. Damn. In addition to him, there are other 4 leaders who have also given up struggling. They know there is no hope. The 19th wave swallowed the devil, and the 9th wave would not work. It's over, they are completely finished. But even if the barrier is broken, they will kill all these devouring demon kings. Everyone assemble in one place, hold a group, save your life. The remaining thousands of people gathered in one place, and even began to evacuate the city wall, slowly killing the devouring demon from the periphery. Although this time I am going to fail, but the treasure point can still be obtained, let's stop the loss first. For those peak Dayan Immortals, and even the top Dayan Immortals who survived by fluke, they resisted the 9th wave at most, and now it is better to give up, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. If it hadn't been for tears to have been walking around and staring, many of them would have to run away. Tear to stare at these, looking badly. He really wanted to throw these people into the Devouring Demon Lord. It's all waste. Devouring the devil's madness, the enchantment can withstand at most 1 breath, and Chengpai will have no hope for them. But the remaining devouring demon lord will not disappear, they have to kill. Once it fails, it is estimated that Jian Wushuang will go crazy and will watch them die by the time and finally come to an end. They are also afraid. But there is no way, unstoppable. It had been expected that these people would collapse, but Jian Wushuang did not expect that these people could collapse so quickly. With just one breath, the line of defense would be broken. Death to death, wound to injury. These people are unreliable. He knew it a long time ago, but he didn't expect to be so unreliable. He couldn't even imagine now how the other walls were guarded. But what he didn't know was that the other walls were much better than his current form. Both Huiqing and Wanqing ended early. The remaining southern city wall, Blood Moon and Lingshuang Daojun can barely hold. Chapter 5267. The domains of these two people are very strong, especially Leng Shuang. She exchanged a lot of space treasures, the most precious treasure together with frost snow. In the world of frost and snow, she summons 6 great ice phoenixes alone, and they were all 6 Taoist masters at once, and there were several breakthroughs on their walls, and their burning origin was comparable to Taoists. It is not surprising to hold on. On Jian Wushuang's side, one is that no one can cooperate with him. He can't tear the sky down the city wall, and it's useless if he goes down. He has no domain and can only rescue around the wall. The rest of them have average strength and potential. Even if they get a lot of treasures, there will be no qualitative changes, and they will be upgraded by 1 level at most. Those half-walking monarchs finally burned the source, but they also failed to take that step. This made Jian Wushuang feel that someone was correcting him behind his back. Why is he the most unlucky every time? After the sword formation returned, protect his surroundings. There are millions of universes in the sleeves, and half of the turbid wine in the pot. Fight! Jian Wushuang gritted his teeth. He didn't want to fall here, not to mention what the sword Xiuhuang said, but the crystal origin of the 11th wave. He was determined to win and would never give up. One thought of the universe. After pouring all the muddy wine into his mouth, his mental power and strength were restored to their peak. The one-minded universe, covering 30 million li, became more and more solidified, and the sun, moon, and stars kept changing. The terrifying power of thought not only affected those devouring demon lords, but even Dian Immortal on the wall felt dizzy and could not feel his own body. Jian Wushuang's body is like a divine stone, affecting the surrounding environment. What is this? Torn Tian exclaimed. He has a bad feeling. Sure enough, as expected by the tower, Jian Wushuang burst out with a huge light in the next moment, illuminating the entire Yinyan universe. You are crazy. So I thought that Jian Wushuang was going to blow himself up. It was really the wave just now, so I wanted to explode too much, and the whole Bodis power was gathered in the whole body, and it exploded in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. Jian Wushuang blew himself up, and he didn't know whether he should be happy or sad. If Jian Wushuang fell, how would he deal with these devouring demon lords? Jian Wushuang blew himself up, wouldn't he kill these devouring demon lords? In addition, he can leave the wings of the candle dragon and another treasure of the candle dragon on his body. Thinking of this, I felt a little short of breath. The dazzling light struck in an instant, and everyone clenched their teeth. The light overwhelmed the sky, swallowing millions of devourers, and annihilated those devourers that ate away the enchantment. The previous thought power envelopes every devouring demon lord, although it is impossible to kill all of them, but under this powerful aura, the devouring demon lord does not have 1 in 10, leaving only a few 100,000. The light gradually dissipated. The crowd straightened up and looked towards the center of the battlefield. Especially tearing the sky, he took the lead and rushed into the core of the battlefield first. Fist-sized dust was always flying in the sky, and the white ground turned to jet black. Where? Look around. A figure suddenly appeared in the tearing sky reluctantly. His face was pale, his face was stained with blood and dirt, his armor was a bit torn, and his hair was shaky. Jian Wushuang. Tearing Tian couldn't believe it. The candle dragon's wings, covered by the dirt behind him, unfolded instantly. Feather is aggressive and domineering, suppressing this void. Why, you are surprised. Jian Wushuang's mouth raised, disdainfully said. If there is no temple of Qixin, he uses this trick. Without the blessing of dirty wine, I am afraid he will fall into a deep sleep. It takes hundreds of millions of years of practice to regain the peak. He was severely injured in the past, and the divine body was on the verge of collapse, and he could recover in a day. Now it will take hundreds of millions of years. One can imagine how badly he suffered. The divine body collapsed, and the source was also turned off. The body is no longer there, and his eyes are extremely hollow. Pieces of rotten flesh fell off his pale face. Can't hold on anymore. His body is completely broken, only a skeleton is left. Fortunately, it was covered by the mad demon armor, and the horror scene did not leak out. The head is still intact, and the hair on the pierced skin hasn't fallen. In Shumi, there is nothing left besides the four origins, but there are some useless things, which can be obtained from killing those dying immortals. Look around and find a scarf made of sackcloth. Wrapped his neck and head, it leaked 3 gaps. Chapter 5268. With his bones slumped on the ground, he stood up with difficulty, leaning on the railing and looking out of the city. The wind keeps blowing. Most of the people on the city wall chose to retire. Before these people left, they said goodbye to Jian Wushuang one by one, as a thank you for this life-saving grace. Jian Wushuang didn't speak but nodded. After the end of the 9th wave, the identity token has not shown when the next wave will be opened, nor has it announced the number of devouring monarchs in the next wave. Jian Wushuang guessed secretly in his heart. It won't be the same as before. If the same as the previous one, he would have to retire in the 11th wave, and the 4 stars would devour the demon lord. He really couldn't stop him. 1 million still had hoped to fight it. For the sake of that origin, big deal, he exploded again. 1 million 4 stars is not unstoppable. Of course, this is a guess. Now the identity token has not been displayed, and he has no choice. According to the usual practice, he should take a day off this time. This time he has to redeem a time house and stay closed for at least 10,000 years. A time house of this level requires astronomical treasures. In the outside world, it may be worthless. But at this time, on the eve of the trial, if you want to practice in retreat for 10,000 years, you have to pay a huge price. At least it would take a large sum of treasure points to restore the strength first, and then exchange for the treasures that increase the basic divine body, and if possible, the physical body must be cast to completion. After taking a breath, he walked down the tower. Now he has one more thing, and that is to negotiate with Tearing the Sky and try to win the Candle Dragon treasure as much as possible. Which treasure is most likely to be the claw of the Candle Dragon? Although he does not cultivate the claw Dao, he has the origin of the extreme Dao, and he can cultivate everything. And the cultivation speed is very fast. He has absorbed a lot of the origin of the claw, especially in the Emperor's Remnant. He also has a lot of unique understanding of the claw. Even if he uses the claw method, once the accessories of the 3 beasts are merged, the power may be able to surpass the imitation of the eternal treasure. By then, his strength can be improved too much. At least after the increase in the divine body, it can soar to 10,000 times. 10,000 times. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up, and a bold guess appeared in his heart. Once the guess is true, I am afraid his strength can rise again. Going down the stairs, Dao Shou Tian had already been waiting for him on the top of the city. The two stood side by side at the top of the city, both looking out of the city. Next, what are your plans? Tin Tian said calmly. Jian Wushuang took out 2 pots of spirits from Shumi. This wine didn't do much to him, except for the burning of the mouth. There was a hint of irritability in his mood, and it also had a special taste. Tin Tian wiped his mouth with his cuff, took the jug that was handed over, raised his head and took a sip. What else can I do? Continue to fight? There is no good choice now. Jian Wushuang took another sip, lying on the wall, staring out of the city. Through the dust, a ray of sunlight tilted, shining on the 2 of them. The 2 of them talked about their past, present, and future like old friends for many years. Do you have any plans for the beast god soldier? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. I have it, but there is still one thing missing. Which one? You guess. This one on me? Jian Wushuang shook his head. He tore the sky and leaked doubts, and then asked in amazement, could it be that the old man with horns still has accessories for the beasts? No, there are so many benefits, let me get it. Jian Wushuang shook his head again. If he really wants to have it, he has to doubt it. According to his luck in the Qishan temple, he is not so good yet. If Hui Qing is down, it is still possible. Tearing the sky nodded, and felt that he was thinking too much. After snorting, he said, that's what I have. No, it's not that easy for the beast god soldier to merge. If it can merge, it won't be on you and me. Jian Wushuang said his opinion. What is that? You'll know later, at least the 11th wave will pass. 11 waves? Correct. Now let's talk about it first. How are you thinking about this one on your body? The most precious point on my body is enough to make you tempted. Jian Wushuang patted the identity token on the wall of the city. Tear the sky and reach out for it. He weighed it in his hand, nodded, frowned slightly, and stared, not knowing whether it was smiling or angry. There are quite a few, and I'm pretty good. After a while, he continued, but it's just tempting. After speaking, he threw the identity token to Jian Wushuang. He was not surprised at this point. If you don't know the beast god soldier, Tears might still hope to make a deal with him, but since he knows about the beast god soldier, he has no reason to give up. I can't admit that I can't, so I should give it to Jian Wushuang. Putting the token back into his body, Jian Wushuang was silent. The matter of the beasts and soldiers should be known to you and me. Don't worry, I won't talk about it. The prince to tear the sky looked up at the sky, feeling that his destiny was bad. Unfortunately with you, otherwise I will be alone on the road and hopefully become an emperor. Indeed, if there were no Jian Wushuang, no one would really compete with him for that candle dragon wing. I am afraid that the 4 origins should also be in the hands of tearing the sky at this time. With his strength, although the 11th wave was a bit difficult, with the candle dragon wings, he could make up for his speed and raise his claws to another level, comparable to the half-step emperor. Once the fusion of the beasts and weapons, the tearing sky at that time is not an advanced half-step emperor, but can be comparable to the emperor. To complete the cultivation of the origin Dao, relying on the success of the Qishan temple to join the Dao, and the incomplete beasts, his combat power will soar to the sky. Take 4 steps steadily, but take the 5th step looking at the 6 steps of the emperor. Such a great opportunity was intercepted by Jian Wushuang, and he had grievances in his heart, but he couldn't tell. Fortunately, chances are in contention, and he can't compete. Jian Wushuang also didn't recognize him, and he retorted, your luck is good enough. Compared with the tragic deaths of dying immortals, or those who have retired, you can still fight for the 10th or 10th. In one wave, your path has gone far enough. Please help me. Mimi Reading app can steal book tickets like stealing food. Come steal the book tickets of your friends and vote for me. That's because they are too weak, it has nothing to do with me. The tearing face changed and said viciously. A cold light flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes, and he replied, since you know, then you should understand that the regret in your mouth is just an excuse for your weakness. If you are strong, how can you still watch it? Exchange the wings. After tearing up the sky, he stabbed his sore spot, and he didn't know how to refute it for a while. The words are right, weak is wrong, and he himself admitted this. But when this happened to him, he didn't want to admit it. Thank you for reminding. Tin Tian stood aside, his face eased, and his voice was neither overbearing nor overbearing. Did you think about it? Jian Wushuang stared at him. If he spends money to solve it quickly, he would be lazy to use some conspiracy. Half of the treasure point is enough, almost more than 6 million, which is enough to raise the foundation to the half-step emperor level, which is much stronger than it is now. Chapter 5269. This opportunity is now placed in front of the tearing sky. After refusing one after another, Jian Wushuang didn't want to waste time, so he showed off directly. If you accept it, everyone is happy. If you don't accept it, Then you will see the difference in the future. Even if the Temple of the Gods is out, he will travel the primitive universe, looking for the accessories of the tearing sky and the beasts. He must get it. Don't give up. He learned from the old man with horns that the eternal treasure was refined by those at the pinnacle of the universe in ancient times, and it belonged to the Emperor's treasure. There is rarely a master of the universe who uses the eternal treasure, and he uses the treasure of a higher level of the universe. The treasure of the universe refined from a universe. Although Jian Wushuang didn't know how strong he was, he could understand what the universe was. And the treasure of the beast god soldier was made by beheading a beast who innately mastered the origin of the universe. There are many universes, and there are many universes in every long river of time and space, and there are few innate beasts and gods. In ancient times, only a few beast gods were killed by the gods. Use the skeleton and flesh and blood of beast gods to cast its body, and its innate origin of the universe as its soul. Beast god soldier. This is the real beast weapon. These treasures, let alone the Emperor, even the masters of the universe are looting frantically. How can this not make him tempted? Although they are incomplete, as long as they merge with each other to nurture a trace of spatial origin, even with a trace of power in the past, Jian Wushuang can run rampant in the primitive universe. Although the eternal treasure is good, he can't bear it, let alone drive it. The eternal treasure that is most used to prevent, but that kind of treasure is also available, not what he wants to get. In Qiuhuang City, there was only one thing, and it was finally obtained by Wanxing. It was still a big seal, and it was of little use to him. As for whether there is a chance to get the imitation of the eternal treasure in the future, it depends on luck. Jian Wushuang is not a person who came here by luck. The future is far away, and he only strives for the present. Who, tearing the sky, seemed to have made a decision, took a long breath and said, "Weak and small have no right to choose, but I still have confidence in guarding my own opportunities." In response to this answer, Jian Wushuang made psychological preparations. If the treasure was given to him so easily, he would be a little worried. Okay. Jian Wushuang played with taste. Death without regrets. The two passed by. Jian Wushuang headed to the city lord's mansion, ready to digest the results of this battle, and when he returned again he was stronger than before, and it was not a treasure that could stop him. Even if Jian Wushuang couldn't get it, the candle dragon wings and the candle dragon eyes were enough for him to use the Emperor. He can understand the unrepentance of tearing the sky, but will not let it go. In the city lord's mansion, the plaques of the 4 great halls are still eye-catching, and tens of thousands of Dayan immortals gather outside the hall gates. All of these people chose to retire, and some of them are limited. Jian Wushuang glanced around, but didn't think much. This time the 9th wave of devouring demon lord did cause them heavy losses. Now, on the 4 major walls, all people together, I am afraid there are not 50,000 people. Now there are more than 30,000 Dayan immortals gathered here. Among them, there is also the ultimate Dayan immortal, who has collected 100,000 treasure points, and chose to accept the inheritance of the first class and cultivate the Emperor's genius. Peak Dayan Immortal also has powerful people who have gathered tens of thousands of treasures. They all have great prospects. Qiu Huangqing is just the end of the 2nd stage. Other top Dayan Immortals have accumulated a lot of treasures, and at least the inheritance of redeeming a handle is not a problem. To know these inheritances, the worst is also a reply to the Emperor's unique knowledge. Someone once accepted the inheritance of Ding et al. Their strength has doubled several times, and the Emperor's unique knowledge of cultivation is also extremely powerful, not at all weaker than the external Emperor's unique knowledge. However, the inheritance of Ding Deng has been completely exchanged today, and there are only a lot of handles left. Jian Wushuang was not very interested in these from the beginning, and stepped into the palace on his own. At this critical juncture, it is still important to restore strength. He has a hunch that the next 10 waves are the key. The previous 9 waves are just a small fight, and continue to filter out the most powerful evangelists. After entering the treasure hall, Qiu Huang's figure flew out of the pot, as before, except that the smile on his face was more cordial than ever. Senior. Jian Wushuang bowed slightly, his expression extremely respectful. Qiu Huang, who was sitting above, waved his hand quickly, looking indifferent. Ugh! Qiu Huang was a little regretful. In his opinion, the strength of Jian Wushuang and the 10,000-star Heavenly Emperor were comparable to those of the ancient Dao Zi, but Jinling was most optimistic about the little monk named Hui Qing. Even more, he will not hesitate to lower the top inheritance and an eternal treasure. Among the thousands of inheritors, one is the only one. Perhaps his vision is too narrow, but he feels that Jian Wushuang's strength, potential, and even the foundation are the strongest. Under the recommendation, Mike Reading app is really good. It is worth installing one for book friends, and both Android and iPhone support. In terms of combat power, it was a little bit behind Wanxing. However, once the beasts and gods merged and recondensed the origin of the space, Jian Wushuang's combat power was not weaker than Wanxing. Moreover, the current Jian Wushuang is still rank 9, and even Dian Immortal's road has not yet been completed. Jian Wushuang below saw Qiu Huang sigh, not knowing why. Before he could speak, Qiu Huang said, "I think you are seriously injured. Is this time to repair the divine body and origin?" Jian Wushuang nodded his head and said respectfully, "I also hope that the seniors will not hesitate to advise." He really left him to choose. He really didn't know what treasure was the best value to redeem. But countless treasures appeared in the hall. "Your divine body is broken. It's a bit troublesome." Qiu Huang frowned, his eyes turned, and soon he had a perfect match plan. "These treasures are the most suitable for you." Qiu Huang waved his hand, and a pile of extremely precious treasures flew towards Jian Wuduan. There are introductions above. Jian Wushuang can see the role of these treasures at a glance. He knew the function of everything, but he really didn't know anything about matching them. The flesh and blood of the giant gods. Jian Wushuang looked at the flesh group. His heart was shaken. Although I don't know the giant clan, which clan it is, but this group of flesh and blood is definitely dug out from the emperor's body. 80,000 treasure point. Jian Wushuang couldn't help taking a breath. Now he has more than 10 million treasures in total. This is just one of the many treasures that restore the divine body, and there are a lot of treasures, all of which are worth tens of thousands of treasures, adding up to 1 million. He couldn't help taking a sip of water and looked up at Qiu Huang. Qiu Huang on the throne seemed to have seen Jian Wushuang's doubts. Is it too wasteful and extravagant to spend millions of treasure points to repair the divine body? Boy, don't worry. Qiu Huang said lightly, "These treasures are indeed too wasteful to repair the divine body, but they are not only treasures for the restoration of the divine body, they can also strengthen your divine body." Qiu Huang frowned. Your origin, don't seem to be injured either." In his opinion, the Dian Immortal Jian Wushuang, who has never finished a realm, possesses such a huge source, in itself, has surpassed the limit. Although he felt weaker than before, he really had to look at it with the naked eye, but he really couldn't see it. He didn't know how to repair it for a while. He exploded a thought of the universe, and his thought power had reached a state where it could not spread, and he had been seriously injured. Especially the ultimate kendo, let alone breakthrough now, the sword is about to be unstable. Seeing Qiu Huang's doubts, he understood. They couldn't see his extreme way. They obviously couldn't see through himself. Let him give pointers. It's better to exchange some original treasures and repair them. Junior's kendo, this time it was hurt a bit, it was almost breaking through. Jian Wushuang deliberately turned off the topic, knowing that he had just said something wrong. "Well, it's almost meaningless. I said why your origin is weaker than before." Qiu Huang nodded, waved out countless treasures, and continued, "In origin, I really don't know much yourself. Look at the pick. Enlightenment flower. Essential fruit. Emperor's luck." There were so many treasures that Jian Wushuang's eyes were dazzled, and he didn't find the treasure to restore Jidao. The other side flower. 50,000 treasure points. The ultimate treasure blooming in the long river of time and space. The emperors are crazy about it. The bien flower in the treasure hall can only be exchanged for the pollen in the bien flower, not a complete bien flower. Looking at it again, Jian Wushuang said in a daze. Pollen? Is it still exchanged by one? This is too outrageous. The flowers and leaves above are still non-exchangeable treasures and can only be exchanged for pollen. But its effect is also the biggest. The legendary flower of the other bank is a magical treasure floating in the long river of time and space. One flower will cause countless emperors to fight, and one flower will give birth to several top emperors and powerful men. A complete flower of the other shore can give birth to a sixth-order emperor. Jian Wushuang still doesn't quite understand the meaning of the sixth-order emperor, but he knows one thing, that there is no sixth-order emperor in the entire primitive universe. He had never heard of the existence of the sixth-order emperor. The strongest is the fifth-order ultimate emperor. If this other shore flower appears outside the Temple of Qixin, I am afraid its attractiveness is even more terrifying than the Temple of Qixin. After all, the Qixin temple was illusory. When it was opened, although it caused the primordial universe to oscillate, it was never heard of other universe powerhouses coming to the primitive universe. The other side flower. Even Qiu Huang was moved, his eyes slightly changed and his voice became heavy and said, "This other side flower should be the only one in the Temple of Qixin. This was obtained by the former existence. Shi and Zhu Yin, the Lord's feelings were very good, and he gave it to the Lord Zhu Yi before he fell." Qiu Huang's eyes were reminiscent. The peerless existence who broke the city with a sword, the existence of the sixth-ordered Zhaoqian, was only half a step away from the true peak, but it was a pity that he eventually fell. Jian Wushuang pondered carefully, and finally he gritted his teeth and directly exchanged 20 pollen from the other shore flower. For a flower on the other side, the ghost knows how many pollen there are. For an ordinary flower, there is too much pollen on the top. You didn't make a mistake. The pollen of Bianhua is stronger than you think. Treasure it. Qiu Huang swiped his finger, a dark red wooden box, and flew towards Jian Wushuang. Open the box. There are 20 nail-sized pollen floating in it, colorless and tasteless. Chapter 5272. Senior, I have decided. The flesh is related to my own combat power. The current Temple of the Gods is a battleground. Improve combat power without delay. After every fight, he had to increase his combat power significantly, otherwise he would be thrown off at any time. Wanxing and Huiqing's combat power had already surpassed him by a lot. In this ranking, Huiqing surpassed him, and Wanxing was biting to death. If he hadn't thought of the universe, he wouldn't be ranked so high. Based on the real combat power, Huiqing and Wanxing are now much stronger than him. His current strength is half the Emperor, and he can do his best to match the Emperor, but it is not enough now. In just a few decades, the former half-step Emperor can now be comparable to the Emperor, and the former Taoist now has a half-step Emperor's combat power, and there are even some powerful men with great potential. The strong. This is only the second stage. Jian Wushuang was comparable to the 9th rank consummation when he came in, and his current combat power has improved very fast, so Huiqing can be comparable to him. Can't be the first. What he wants is the number one, and even surpasses all others. The difference in Tao should also be reflected. After mastering the extreme way, he should have been 10 times and 100 times stronger than the same rank, but now in the same rank, Huiqing is stronger than him. Ji Chaoyang has no inheritance, and can become a Taoist monarch by relying solely on the original Tao. Once the realm is complete, can it be improved, plus the inheritance in the future, he will at least have the combat power comparable to the Emperor. Struggle. In a world of great controversy, the fight for opportunities depends on strength, not potential. With the exception of Huiqing, he could be spotted, and there was a 1 in a billion chance that Jian Wushuang would not dare to gamble that the senior officials of the Qixin Temple would like him. He is more willing to rely on his strength to fight for it. Senior, supergrade physical body, I still need to exchange for treasures that increase the basic divine body. During the conversation with Qiu Huang, he learned the real difficulty of tempering the supergrade physical body. In purgatory, struggle for thousands of years. Refine every drop of blood and every piece of flesh into one body. At that time, his entire physical body will be immortal. 10,000 years? Jian Wushuang was a little surprised. Wouldn't it be enough for 100 years? Boy, the super-quality flesh body has 9 refinements, and the 9-strength super-quality physical body takes 7,000 years at the fastest and tens of thousands of years. I think you have a good foundation, saying that 10,000 years is short enough. As Qiu Huang said, he planned a large number of treasures together. There are many treasures needed for the super-grade physical body, and it is not certain whether it can be made. It is not as good as refining the superior physical body, which takes a short time and consumes little, and it does not take as long as 10,000 years, which consumes energy, and money. Then there, Wanian Space-Time House. Jian Wushuang said. Of course, the entire Temple of the Gods is actually a space-time house. We have a year here, and the outside world is 10,000 years. If the flow of time is the same as the outside world, then the controllers of the Temple of the Gods will be crazy. Jian Wushuang was stunned. It was the first time he had heard of such a large space-time house for 1 year in the Qishan Temple and thousands of years outside. The flow rate he wanted became slower. The flow rate of the Qishan Temple was 10,000 times that of the outside world, and the space-time house became much simpler. Wanxing Tiandis' eyes were firm, and he put away the 8 directions of Yunlong Yin. There is nothing wrong with what he said, but it will definitely feel contempt for others to hear it. Jian Wushuang could understand Wanxing. In the future, it will be the ultimate way, or the world where all the ways are one. After all, the original school is the mainstream, and if the Temple of Qishan cultivates those Dayan immortals who walk in the body, they will also have a share. Of these 3 paths, 10,000 stars do not occupy one. He has reached the limit, and further down is to take the original path and elevate the path to perfection. But the second great original Tao, no matter how perfect it will be weaker than the ultimate Tao in the future. His only way out now is to embark on the line of the body. But the divine body route, the necessary inheritance is not available at all, and I can only use treasures to hit the divine body multiple. Wanxing had the strength to smash it, but this was not a solution. Thousands of times, it's okay. The Temple of Qishan has that background, but if you want to break 10,000 times, it's not that simple. If you don't break 10,000 times, you can't do that. The two chatted for a few words, and then they separated. Jian Wushuang didn't conceal it either. He said directly that he wanted to cultivate a super-grade physical body. Especially when he heard that he spent more than 8 million to cultivate the illusory body, and he couldn't increase the strength of the body, it was also extremely surprised. Chapter 5273. I'm afraid that the entire primordial world is just as extravagant as Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang also had his own plans. With regard to the divine body, he didn't plan to go to the extreme from the beginning. His advantage is to follow the original path, but he can't walk now. It's better to cultivate the physical body to consummation first, especially the immortality of the supergrade physical body, which is full of temptation. As long as one hair, it can be restored. Even a single breath can condense a clone. This is simply what he dreamed of. Life-saving always comes first. You can fight if you have fate. In terms of the divine body, he has the domain of the beast gods, and this is really not anxious. This time, his basic divine body is expected to be 3,000 times, which is considered a small achievement, plus the beast domain. It can also be about 10,000 times, and it happens to be able to cultivate a supergrade physical body. After returning to the wall, he discovered that there was no one on the wall. That's right, many people have entered the space-time house within a month, ready to fight hard. If you can advance to the extreme Dayan Immortal, you can fight again without the combat power of the extreme Dayan Immortal. You will wait to die if you stay. They are also shocked by the 9th wave now, afraid that this kind of superimposed test will continue to grow in the future. Looking at the dark turmoil outside the city, Jian Wushuang's eyes turned, and there was a little resonance with it. A pair of scarlet eyes flashed, but disappeared into the darkness in an instant. Jian Wushuang could see clearly, frowning slightly. The trace of thought power just now was wrapped in a message that was passed on. He couldn't understand it. It should be the language of devouring demon lord. Do these devourers find that I am the same as them? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Cold sweat broke out from behind instantly, and if this is the case, I'm afraid the high level of Qishan Temple will find it too. Maybe it has already been discovered. Looking at how the Qishan Temple treats these devourers, it is obvious that they are treated as monsters, and they have the power to devour them. This association made Jian Wushuang a trace of fear in his eyes. The information wrapped by Nianli was also crushed by him. It was only a sigh of relief to cover up the desire to swallow at the bottom of my heart. If the Temple of Qishan discovers the secrets in him and does not take action against him, it means that he has not touched the bottom line of the Temple of Qishan. It seems that this place is not a chance, but a tomb. It is the tomb of his Jian Wushuang. If someone wants to move him, no matter how many cards he has, he can't resist. Fortunately, the mood is strong enough to stabilize the mind. In the sky, a space was torn apart, and a woman in red armor walked out from the crack in the space. Her face is exquisite, her eyes are cold, especially her face has lines visible to the naked eye, and her red armor is full of heroism. Jian Wushuang knew that this was the person Qiu Huang had called him, and he hurriedly stepped forward to meet him. The red-clad woman, with a heavy voice, had a lifeless aura that made Jian Wushuang's mind tremble. This existence didn't have any aura, but the pressure on him was stronger than Zhen Weong. It is countless times stronger than those emperors who have seen him. Jian Wushuang, I am ordered by the palace master to take you to Moyne Mountain and accept the 9 refinements of the flesh. Thank you, Emperor. Jian Wushuang bowed again and thanked him again, and his respect for the strong could not be less. This was Jian Wushuang's accumulated experience over the years. You can call me Zhu Qi. Zhu Qi, with a delicate and cold face, was very unhappy with the title of emperor. Jian Wushuang stood aside, nodded and said yes. However, the word adult was added after the name. No need to resist, I will take you through time and space teleportation. Zhu Qi stretched out Qian's thin arm, opened his palm and directly grabbed Jian Wushuang into his hand. At that moment, Jian Wushuang discovered that there was an eye in the palm of Zhu Qi's palm. After he was swallowed into that eye, he was able to see the outside world clearly through Zhu Qi's eyes. Hello everyone, our public account will find gold and coin red envelopes every day, and you can receive them as long as you pay attention. Please seize the opportunity for the last benefit at the end of the year. Book Friends Base Camp, this is simply amazing. Jian Wushuang was like a kid going to the fair for the first time, staring at him, looking around. But no matter how he turned his eyes, the scene in front of him remained unchanged. Yes, this is the perspective of Master Zhu Qi after all. The two, or Zhu Qi, returned to the space crack and appeared in the void of the primitive world. It happened to appear in a huge formation. Zhu Qi took out a token from his hand, and the word Jian Wushuang above knew it. Suzhen Hall, Zhu Qi. Jian Wushuang whispered in his heart. According to speculation, Qiu Huang's Zhu Yi should be the palace master. This also made him breathe a sigh of relief. At first he thought he was the master of the Qishan Temple. It seemed that the Qishan Temple was really much stronger than he had imagined. At least any one person is stronger than all the emperors he has ever seen. Perhaps his vision is low and he can't see through. But the 7th Master Zhu was at least much better than Zhen Weong. After the token was placed in the big formation, the world revolved, and Jian Wushuang only felt the scene in front of him began to revolve. Jian Wushuang naturally didn't care about the feeling of spinning around the world. Until everything he saw before his eyes turned into a circular tunnel, Zhu Qi stepped out of and the tunnel disappeared. The world stopped spinning, and Jian Wushuang could see the outside world clearly. The towering Moyne Mountain appeared before his eyes. The mist on the clouds lingered, and on the dark mountain, it was barely different from the primordial star. After arriving at the place, Zhu Qi didn't mean to release Jian Wushuang. Zhu Qi's figure fell to the entrance of the mountain. Jian Wushuang also blinked his eyes and looked at everything outside. In the next moment, Zhu Qi's figure was like a ghost, and there were countless figures on that trail, all walking slowly and staggeringly, and every step of Zhu Qi was hundreds of feet. More than everyone. Although Zhu Qi's speed was very fast, Jian Wushuang could still see the outside world clearly. That's it. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Isn't the head of the monk who sits cross-legged for 3,000 battles the thousand-handed Buddha he has seen? The thousand-hand Buddha and the immeasurable Buddha. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. It seemed that the chance Qiu Huang was talking about was here. Seeing those emperors walking hard, he understood why Zhu Qi put him into his hands. The difficult road that the emperor is taking. If he comes out, I am afraid he will die suddenly. Familiar figures appeared in front of them. The emperors who used to be high above, one by one deliberately turned their bodies into tens of thousands of powerful people, are now like an elderly man, walking 2 steps and stopping for a while. Zhu Qi's speed was very fast, and he reached halfway up the mountain in a short while. This place is different from below. There is now a pagoda sitting here. Jian Wushuang is also very familiar with this tower. This tower is the eternal tower of the pinnacle power. Now the Ion is only a few battles in size, and outside of it, there are hundreds of evil figures frantically attacking the Ion. Although he couldn't feel the breath, he still recognized the identities of these evil figures based on their eyes. Chapter 5274. Swallow Demon Lord. Why are these people stuff everywhere? The temple of Qishan hates these devourers and treats these devourers as sharpening stones. In terms of these things, how are they like locusts? They have them all. This is an ethnic group? Jian Wushuang asked in doubt. It doesn't look like an individual's life. When Zhu Qi's figure passed the Ion Tower, it only took a glance to kill all the devouring demon lords surrounding the Ion Tower. Humph! Jian Wushuang watched carefully. After the devouring demon lords dissipated, they turned into mist and returned to the top of the mountain. And they were heading to the top of the mountain at this time, and they reached the top of the mountain in a short time. The scenery on the top of the mountain made Jian Wushuang a little surprised, not so good. The sound of heavy chains came from the stone pillars on the top of the mountain. Not showing up yet? Zhu Qi's voice was cold. Click. A burly figure walked out from behind the stone pillar. His hands, feet, waist, and neck were all bound by chains, and even on his chest there was a huge barb clinging to its bones. Zhu Qi. Shanjun. From the mouth of Zhu Qi, Jian Wushuang knew that the strange beast in front of him was named Shanjun. More importantly, this mountain monarch is actually a devouring monarch. I have been ordered to send someone into the demon suppression pillar to sharpen the body. Zhu Qi's voice was as indifferent as ever. The sacred fangs in the mouth of the mountain king trembled slightly. Why, do I have to report to this prisoner when I send someone in? Jian Wushuang was also a little surprised. This existence was right, why should he report it to the other party? If he were outside at this time, he would definitely be shocked when he watched Zhu Qisher. Because of this indifferent woman, she was crying. So Jian Wushuang's vision became blurred. It seems that there are hidden secrets in this. Jian Wushuang's mouth turned up, thinking something in his heart. Shanjun's eyes were still fierce and fierce, his scarlet eyes turned, and he stared at Zhu Qi's eyes without hesitation. Jian Wushuang saw the truth, as if the two were looking at each other. Then come in. Shanjun moved lightly, and the chain behind him was pulled out of the magic pillar, and a small door frame leaked out. No one has used it for so many years, now someone will come, and in the days to come, you won't be lonely. Zhu Qi trembled a little, walked straight beside Shanjun, stretched out his hand to swallow Jian Wushuang into the palm of his hand, and sent it into the pillar of suppression demon. Upon seeing this, Shanjun frowned, but he didn't say much. He used his back to plug the gap on the suppression demon pillar again. Then his eyes were closed tightly, and Zhu Qi who stood in front of him was ignored. Jian Wushuang's figure turned into a streamer and fell into the bottom of the suppression demon pillar. His feet hit the ground heavily, and Jian Wushuang's armor had already leaked out, always protecting himself. Now he hasn't recovered his strength, there is really any danger, but he can't resist resistance. After stabilizing his figure, he scanned the surroundings and found that Zhu Qi had not come with him. In the magic column, there is another cave. The ground here is very flat, it can even be said to be unusually smooth and hard. He hit the ground heavily just now, and he didn't even leave a trace. Everything around him seemed empty, except that there was a 9-story tower in front of his eyes, which was about 100 meters high. In addition to the tower, there is also a huge furnace. Jian Wushuang walked to the side of the fire, looked around, and found that there was no one at all. Is this going to let him explore it alone? Below the stove, there is a natural ground fire that burns the dragon red. Cosmic Copper Furnace. Jian Wushuang saw a few ancient characters protruding from the top, which were the characters of the giant gods, and Jian Wushuang recognized it. The old man Qiu Huang has never said that there is this Ding Universe bronze furnace. Call. Just as Jian Wushuang was about to sit down cross-legged and regained his strength, a burst of black smoke rose from the top of the copper furnace. Jian Wushuang was familiar with this scene, very similar to the old men in Qiu Huang City. The black mist condenses and finally turns into a human form. The only difference from Qiu Huang and others is that this black misty figure is much younger. He wears dazzling black armor, sword eyebrows, star eyes, sharp facial features, plus the beard on the temples. It looks very heroic. Jian Wushuang, as always, bowed to his head. Junior Jian Wushuang, meet Senior. The black-clad middle-aged man just nodded, and then his figure floated to the door of the tower. How much do you know about this trial tower? Jian Wushuang raised his head, looked up and down the trial tower again, and said, the juniors don't know much about it, but they learned from Senior Qiu Huang that the super-grade flesh body needs 9 refinements, so it should be to step on this trial tower. The 9th floor. The middle-aged man in black armor nodded, and after a moment of silence, he replied, almost. The trial tower was not forged for the flesh, not even the cosmic copper furnace. Jian Wushuang was a little surprised. The trial tower is to temper the flesh. The universe copper furnace is the real refinement of the undead. The treasures you exchange will also be used in the universe copper furnace in the future. After the two talked for a while, Jian Wushuang understood the horror under the superposition of the two. In the cosmic copper furnace, there is the origin of the universe, coupled with the immortal earth fire. A ray of arrogance is enough to make the 9-ranked Dian immortal fall. There is no 10,000 times divine body. Even if you are a strong Taoist, you can't hold on to a stick of incense. 9 refining, just the first refining, takes an hour, and the later period requires tens of thousands of years of refining. I think you still have injuries. When you are ready, you can call me at any time. Jian Wushuang asked anxiously, Senior, I don't know if there is time to speed up here? Don't worry, when you enter here, the flow rate has been blessed to 200,000 times. As soon as the black-clad middle-aged man's voice fell, his figure returned to the cosmic copper furnace. Jian Wushuang was the only one left in the entire demon pillar. What he has to do now is to recover his injury first, and then improve his divine body. Every time he is injured, his origin will be stronger than ever. This is a unique characteristic of Jidao. I don't know how much he can improve this time. Sitting cross-legged on a clearing, began to run the origin. Wow! A huge image of the starry sky appeared all around, and Jian Wushuang seemed to be cross-legged in the starry sky. This time the loss of Jidao origin is actually not that much. Jian Wushuang's mouth raised, saying that it was a serious injury because he hadn't suffered such a serious loss before. All kinds of treasures were recruited at will, floated into the body, and finally entered the original air column. Melt. Inside the source gas column, Jian Wushuang's pronucleus turned into a smaller self, mobilizing countless treasures, and began to repair its origin. Chapter 5275. The origin of the loss this time was mainly Jidao. After all, it was thought power that blew itself up. Even if the sword formation exploded along with it, the sword formation itself was transformed by thought power. Therefore, the ultimate kendo does not consume much. This time I didn't exchange so many kendo origins, mainly for the restoration and promotion of Jidao. Swallowing countless demon monarchs, the 4th layer of Jidao is already full. This time, while recovering, you can try to hit the 5th floor. As for the ultimate swordsmanship, there is still no idea of a breakthrough for the time being, which is also related to his origin. At the end of this time, he must separate the Ji Dao and the Sword Dao. The two can cooperate with each other in the secret method or the jerk, but it is related to the origin and must be distinguished. The sword master kills the sun. It is a pure yang sword body. Not to be confused. Ji Dao is different. Ji Dao is more like the first-class sect. Comprehend everything, master the avenue of everything, encompass the universe. The patterns of the two are different. Don't look at the fact that they are very strong now, but in the future, they will have a headache. Everything is transformed. There are too many treasures used in the restoration of the extreme Dao, some of which are the origin of the emperor, and some are not complete. These origins are actually not conspicuous in the treasure house. At that time, he exchanged the origin of 200,000 supreme treasure points from Qiu Huang in one breath. Just to swallow this time. Let Ji Dao get full first, and then fix those broken loopholes. Yep. A crack appeared on the magnificent source column. Jian Wushuang, turned into a soul god, flew directly close to the origin of Ji Dao, took out a piece of Konoha, and put Konoha into the crack according to Qiu Huang's method. The cracks on the pillar began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Every crack or broken hole was repaired by Jian Wushuang one by one. Hundreds of thousands of treasures were consumed in just 3 days. Finally, the first step is complete. The origin of Ji Dao has been completely restored. He hasn't used the pollen of higganflower for the time being, and he plans to use it in the ultimate kendo. After the Ji Dao completely recovered, there was a scene of all things resuscitating inside. He felt relaxed physically and mentally in the bath of the soul, and his mind was refreshed. The eyes were also brighter, and even the soul realm increased rapidly. Forget it, it'll give you 5. The Ji Dao obviously showed signs of loosening. The pollen that was originally intended to be used for the ultimate kendos by Ganhua took out 5 of them and put them into the original air column. The other shore flower. One flower blooms without roots and traces, colorless and tasteless. It is floating on the other side of the long river of time and space, and it seems that its appearance has nothing to do with the entire universe or with time and space. But its overflow is the essence of the long river of time and space. Back then, ancient times, the long river of time and space is not so lifeless as it is now. At that time, the practitioners, whether they are the emperor or the highest existence in the universe, they all yearn for a flower from the other side. Its value is comparable to that of the universe. But this kind of heaven-defying treasure is not obtained by strength, but by luck. It is said that the other shore flower grows in the long river of time and space, but according to what Qiu Huang said, it is likely to grow in the heart. Growing in the heart of a certain mighty person, wherever the heart is, and wherever he can see, there will be a flower from the other side blooming. Originally, Jian Wushuang thought that it was the strongest person who got it by virtue of his strength. Now it seems that it is not only strength, but also luck and great opportunity. She didn't use this flower on her own, but left it to Qishan Temple and gave it to her friend Zhu. Jian Wushuang couldn't do this kind of selfless great freedom. Among the people he knows, it is estimated that Xian Yi can do it. Now, maybe Huiqing can do it too. What is this? This is great freedom. As I wish, the flesh can be cut to you. At this point, Jian Wushuang thought of the world of Tongtian Buddhism, which is their old tradition. Putting it in the Daisai domain, let alone the other shore flower, it was just because of the outer hall of the Qishan Temple that Zhen Weiyang almost destroyed the entire domain, and the entire era of killing was completely annihilated. Jian Wushuang looked more and more magical. Such a treasure, he did not expect that one day he would also get it. Although it was just the pollen above, it was enough. He was not an emperor. The 5 pollen in their origin turned into fist-sized particles and gradually spread. He doesn't open his arms. Blossom. The pollen rises when it blooms, and although it is tasteless, it is very poignant, and now the pollen collapsed represents withering. With a drink and a peck, Jian Wushuang actually caused his own destruction to rise several levels. This is the process of destruction and rebirth, which naturally benefits. But this is only a little benefit. The real big benefit is that his origin has also been reborn again. Call. The fifth floor of Jidao broke through. The huge swallowing made his heart palpitations, and his pupils suddenly shrank, and he couldn't help it for a while. He hurriedly took out 5 more pollen, and it was considered as a steady source of vibration. Sure enough, Jian Wushuang stared at the original Qi pillar in shock. The benefits of this breakthrough to the extreme path were not only the increase in thought power and devouring, it also increased the power of his soul. When it reaches its limit, it has laid the foundation for the soul to perfection in the future. Especially the origin of space, this kind of origin power that can be cultivated by emperors, Jian Wushuang is now considered to have completely crossed the threshold of entry. Although he has not yet entered the room, he has some eyebrows. At least in Dian Immortal, few people know the origin of space better than him. Thanks to Candle Dragon Wings, the treasure of space is different. Although it was only a part of the incompleteness, it also made his spatial origin start faster than ordinary people. After the Jidao origin was completely stabilized, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes and let out a sigh of relief. The first hurdle is over. The loss of ultimate kendo is much simpler to repair. Then there is the restoration of the divine body. For the divine body, Jian Wushuang also laid the blood, and just an ancient secret recipe cost him 1,000,000 treasure points. There is also the flesh and blood of the giant gods, one to repair, and the other to strengthen the basic divine body. 2 birds with 1 stone, good things come together. Next, he began to repair the origin of kendo, the purest treasure and a heart of kendo, so that he repaired extremely smoothly. The only pity was that all 10 pollen were used up, and he still had no idea about the breakthrough. It seemed that he really couldn't break through the 7th layer of the big hurdle for a while. In the suppression demon column, it is 100 years in a flash. The restoration of the original source took only a year or so, and it took hundreds of years to restore the truly difficult divine body. This restoration has improved his divine body thousands of times. Now it has barely entered the ranks of 3,000 times. It is completely comparable to those cosmic-level special beings. The special beings in the Great Division's domain at the beginning were only 2,000 times the strongest. Now he has completely surpassed those special beings born in the domain and is truly comparable to those cosmic-level special beings. Chapter 5276. After the injury was completely repaired, Jian Wushuang's primordial spirit returns and his true body descends. Slowly opened his eyes, in the dark golden eyes, a trace of pupils were still scarlet, and they exuded an evil aura. After breaking through the 5th layer, that sense of pressure hit again. However, the strength of the mind still suppressed the evil aura to death. After standing up, Jian Wushuang clenched his fists, bowed slightly, and the red mark on the center of his eyebrows began to explode. The 3rd eye, Candle Dragon's eye, broke out completely, running to the limit. Beast God! Jian Wushuang let out a low roar, and the smooth ground under his feet boiled instantly, and a huge disc appeared. The totem of the Candle Dragon is marked above. Ouch! A phantom of 1,000-stranded Candle Dragon instantly rose from the soles of the feet, and the sound of the dragon's ming was the world's best. Field. The plain totem on the sole of the foot turned into a blood-stained space, and the Candle Dragon was completely transformed into a living thing. It's just a pity that Candle Dragon's wings can't be stacked, otherwise it's better than what they are now. Strands of light red arrogance began to rise from him. The divine body keeps increasing. The 3,000 times the basic divine body quickly increased to 5,000 times. 7,000 times. 8,000 times. 9,000. 9,998. 10,000 times. The original red arrogance has now turned into scarlet. The armor of the Mad Devil Slayer was dyed dark red armor. 1 times divine body, he is considered to be achieved. What we need to do now is to maintain it for 10,000 years. According to what Qiu Huang and the black-clad man said, every time the trial is completed, it can be repaired, which also gave him time to breathe. Only in the end, he still has to keep it for hundreds or even thousands of years. Call. Jian Wushuang let out a sulky breath, and after he stood up completely, his figure turned into about 9 feet. Senior, Junior is ready to open the trial tower. As soon as his voice fell, a figure rose again from the cosmic copper furnace. Looking at Jian Wushuang with a somewhat complicated gaze, he slowly said, 10,000 times divine body, a little bit reluctant. Good luck. Middle-aged man in black armor, deep finger, 1 point. The trial tower hummed, and then the tower on the first floor gleamed brightly. Go in. Jian Wushuang bowed again and thanked him again, then his figure flashed without any delay, and he walked directly into the first floor of the trial tower. The black armor figure watched Jian Wushuang enter the trial tower, and the surprise in his eyes was released. When Jian Wushuang first came here, he found the breath of Jian Wushuang, especially Jian Wushuang who had restored his origin. That breath was even stronger. Who is he? The black-clad man was full of doubts. If it is the incarnation of God, the true spirit should find out. After hesitating for a while, he returned to the copper furnace of the universe, but a plan emerged from the bottom of his heart. Jian Wushuang entered the trial tower, but he didn't know that he was favored. Others are favored by the true spirit, but he is different. He is favored by a demon lord. After stepping into the trial tower, he discovered that in this cavernous sky, it was completely different from the purgatory heaven he imagined. It turned out to be a paradise here. A peaceful valley. There are many mundane things living in it, such as cattle, sheep, horses, and other wild animals. Ding! After Jian Wushuang fell on the ground, he didn't respond quickly before he found a message sent by his identity token. Within 10 years, all the livestock in this area will be eaten up. This. Jian Wushuang held the token and stared at it with small eyes. Eat it all? Will this be too simple? If it's just a simple meal, he can swallow it in 1 bite. But when he mobilized his power, he found that he couldn't mobilize his power, and he couldn't even get things from the Shumi world. Nowadays, he is no different from a mortal except for his powerful body. Since falling on the grass outside the valley, he hasn't even the ability to fly. Look at the gliding wild goose above the sky again. Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. What kind of trial is this? He spent so many treasures that he actually allowed him to learn mortal hunting. After pondering for a long time, he still couldn't start. He really has no experience in this line. He didn't realize the hunger after a long absence until his stomach started grunting. A heavy armor. He began to take off the armor. There is only one strong suit on her body, which is very comfortable, and she is also very vigorous in her activities. It is about a height of a leap. There are still some differences with mortals. Until he saw a wild boar with a long stature madly hitting a fruit tree, waiting for the fruit to fall, and then picking up the fruit on the ground to eat. Jian Wushuang swallowed. I looked around, picked up a stone, and started to look at the first prey, wild boar, about the time of a stick of incense, under the fruit tree. Only Jian Wushuang was standing alone, or just barely standing with his back leaning against the tree. The wild boar is walking slowly to the only river in the valley to drink water. Jian Wushuang was clutching his stubborn belly. The feeling of you reading www.akanshu.com was even more uncomfortable than when he was fighting. A sense of powerlessness struck immediately. Jian Wushuang forcibly endured the pain, picked up a few fruits that wild boars couldn't like, and rubbed it on his body. An unbearable sour taste made him vomit out. No wonder the wild boars looked down on it. The fruit is clearly unripe. Jian Wushuang was so embarrassed that he was struggling to walk. He felt that his ribs had just been broken by a wild boar. Fortunately, he is a bit stronger than a mortal, otherwise he would have to explain to the wild boar just now. Stumbled toward the river about 3 feet wide, first washed his face, so that his mind was sobered, and then drank the water from the river. He continued to drink until he felt full before he stopped. Lying flat on the grass, turning his head, he saw that the tusks-toothed boar was actually in the river upstream of him. The water in the mouth just swallowed, and it suddenly disappeared. The sky was getting dim. In the sunny valley during the day, wolves roar everywhere at night. If it was before, it was nothing, but now Jian Wushuang's combat effectiveness is not as good as a wild boar. He really has to be careful. Before the sky was completely dark, he climbed onto the fruit tree with crooked neck. Without sleep all night, his eyes are a little sunken. At 10 in the morning, he and the group of livestock went to the river to drink, but this time he learned to be smart and ran to the uppermost reaches. Although he wasn't very vocal, at least he wouldn't feel so uncomfortable in his heart. At least one day later, he also ate a lot of ripe fruit on the tree and gained a little confidence. It's not possible to deal with wild boars. In addition to the wild boar, there are also the silly roe deer on the mountain. This threat is a little bit smaller, and he can start with the silly roe deer. After finalizing the plan, Jian Wushuang began to explore the woods on the mountain. Chapter 5277. It is a pity that he heard a tiger roar before he entered the forest. The sound of tiger roaring mountain forest stopped him. At this moment, he had to think, if he was eaten by the Tiger King in the mountains, whether he was really dead or faked. He had to admit that there was a real danger of death. If this is true, he needs too much defense. In this way, this first exercise really trapped him. Even if it can't be done, he will have to live here for 10 years. Wild boar. Not advisable. At present, his abilities are at best a little better than mortals. After all aspects are suppressed, the whole valley he can bully may be the little lamb. But when he was staring at the lambs, the wild wolf on the high of the valley cast threatening eyes. Facing Jian Wushuang, a carnivore who suddenly appeared in the valley, he was very vigilant. They don't want to be like wild boars, they can knock you over. For the next whole day, Jian Wushuang was observing the animals in the valley, whether it was a group of goats, a lonely wild boar, or a cow or sheep. He didn't rush to do anything. In terms of strength alone, he doesn't even have a pig's strength. As for the wolf, 1 can deal with it, and 2 and 3 can go up together, and he is also suspended. In the starry sky, he has witnessed the rise of the human race, and there are hunting scenes in his memory. If the strength is not enough, then rely on the brain. Use traps to kill those large livestock. The goal now is to live and eat. It was very late in the afternoon, with plenty of sunshine. Many animals are crawling on the grass, bathing in sunlight. Jian Wushuang sneaked into the flock of sheep secretly and took the opportunity to sleep for 2 hours. He would never sleep at night now. If he was attacked by some carnivores, he would definitely be in danger of death. He can only choose to rest during the day and avoid the predators at night in the trees at night. However, he was not idle either. As night fell, he climbed the crooked neck tree 3 to 5 times high again, but he had a very tough stick in his hand, which was thick and strong. In addition to the wooden sticks, he also stole a lot of rattans picked up by the sheep and 2 angular stones picked up by the river. As night fell, his vision was dim. According to the experience gained during the daytime groping, he first polished the stone, sharpened the edges and corners, and then began to weave the rattan into a rope. Fortunately, he was boring enough to see how the ancients survived. Otherwise, when he comes here, his eyes are really black and he doesn't know what to do. For 3 consecutive days, I polished the stones and made ropes every night. During the day, I took the opportunity to mix in with the sheep to rest. With the cover of the sheep, the wild boars did not dare to trouble him. Enter the 5th day of the trial tower. Jian Wushuang created a weapon of his own. A sharp spear. The spearhead is a stone with sharp edges and blood troughs. At least with him, Jian Wushuang can break through the defenses of those wild boars. But this is far from enough. He was not in a hurry to deal with the wild boar. There are no more animals in this valley, and no more animals. The top herbivores are cattle. They are so big that wolves are afraid to hunt them. But they are gentle by nature and are not very threatening. There are about 30 heads in this group. The second is the wild boar. Jian Wushuang has suffered a lot from them. Every morning, these wild boars will hit the tree, so he has to get down from the tree in advance and go to the sheep to take refuge. Moreover, wild boars are militant. Whether they are herbivorous or carnivorous, they will provoke each other. Under the 2 fangs, even the wolves dare not go head-to-head. The number of this ethnic group is about 100, but they are very scattered and generally do not live in groups. In addition to these two heavyweight opponents, the rest is not a big threat. The horse herd, like the sheep, is very gentle by nature and not threatening at all. However, Jian Wushuang knew it for a while and didn't dare to do anything with them. At night, he found that most of the wolves were sneaking on the outside of the flock, and he did not dare to attack the flock. After all, there are too many, thousands of them, and there are only dozens of wolves. The wrestling of sheep is not a joke. It seems that I can only go to the riverside to try my luck. Jian Wushuang held the spear, and the stone on the spearhead was fixed by the rope very strong, like one body. After arriving at the river, he began to move some stones to block the river. Between the gaps, there was only 1 finger wide, and no fish larger than a slap could get through. After setting up all this, Jian Wushuang began to wait for the fish from upstream. He has been eating fruit for so many days, and his whole person has lost a lot of weight. After returning to a mortal, he slowly regained the feeling he once had. Jian Wushuang sighed that he used to be able to fly, but he would never run, but how eager to fly now. If you can fly, let alone the wild boar, he is not afraid of the Tiger King in the mountains. The splash gradually rose, and the sword plunged into the water without the spear in both hands. Jian Wushuang jumped directly into the turbulent river. Through the clear water, he saw the big fish that had been pierced into the water. Unsurprisingly, in addition to making weapons these days, he really observed whether there were fish in the river, or whether there were fish-eating carnivores such as brown bears. Fortunately, after a few days of observation, there are no bears, but some fishes. Today's receipt is destined to let him have a meal. By the small river, he dealt with this big fish, which was not of any kind, urgently. Although it was a bit rough, it was enough to fill his stomach. He hasn't found a good place to live so far, and he doesn't dare to make a fire, so he can only eat raw. The plump fish that has been cleared by the river has no fishy smell, but is very cool and refreshing. After swallowing a whole fish into his belly, he found that his whole body felt a scorching sensation, as if he had a lot of strength, and he didn't know how to vent it. Jian Wushuang picked up a stone by the river. Yang started to chop it, and directly split the hard pebbles in half. I am actually much better than before. My strength is increasing. Jian Wushuang was extremely surprised. It turned out that these things were great supplements, not ordinary things. He didn't know how strong he was when he first came in, but he can now judge that the strength of his hands is definitely more than 1,000 caddies. He jumped up. It was still about a battle. This point hasn't changed, but the running speed has increased a lot. The ordinary flesh is a point stronger than before. This is just a fish, if you eat that wild boar. Jian Wushuang's eyes became hot, and now his eyes glowed with seductive light when he looked at the animals. Only now did he understand the true meaning of this first practice. A single fish can increase the strength of several hundred caddies, so if all the livestock in this area are eaten, wouldn't it be able to break the sky with a mortal body? This is only the first layer. After eating these animals, it is considered to have passed the first level, then enter the universe copper furnace, and survive the copper furnace refining, which is the real first refinement. Chapter 5278. It has been almost a month since I got here. Jian Wushuang started fishing for the first time and ate fish for a month, and now his strength has exceeded 10,000 caddies. The hundreds of fatty fish in the river were almost cleaned by him. I'm used to catching it, it's 3 to 5 a day. With my current physical strength, it's time to meet the wild boar. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed, clearing the blood on the spear. As soon as I was together, I saw a wild boar drinking water downstream. This was the first time, attacking his side. Most wild boars live in the woods, with only a few heads roaming on the grass in the valley as a whole. Jian Wushuang picked up a piece of gravel, grabbed it, and then threw it at the wild boar drinking water. A terrible pig cry resounded through the valley. The stone hit the wild boar's back, making the wild boar limping back quickly. Go and pack you tonight? Swordless, holding a spear in both hands, left the river. After observing these days, he found that wolves hunt in Hedong at night, and wild boars are in Heshi at night. At that time, no predator will compete with him. After taking his attention, he attached to the flock, lay down on a steep slope, and waited for the night to come. According to his calculations, the strength of a pig should be around 3,000. Now his strength with both fists breaking 10,000 caddies is dozens of times stronger than before. It should be no problem to deal with a wild boar. Moreover, the wild boar's hind leg was injured, and he couldn't run, so he could only fight with him. Lying on the hillside, Jian Wushuang's eyes were staring at the injured wild boar. The sneak attack just made the wild boar vigilant a bit, and never dared to go to the river. The night came quickly, and Jian Wushuang adjusted his physical aura to the extreme. In this battle tonight, he had a 90% chance of winning one-on-one, and he was afraid that other animals would participate. If this wild boar can be slaughtered, he will have at least half a month's ration, and his physical strength will skyrocket. He has eaten all the fish in the river, and everything is moving in a good direction. One by one, in 10 years' time, eating all these animals is not a problem. Taking advantage of the darkness, Jian Wushuang quietly crossed the river and came to the territory of wild boar and buffalo. 70% of this grassland is occupied by cattle, and the remaining 30% is occupied by 7 wild boars. That is to say, the cattle are gentle by nature. If they were like wild boars, they would have been driven away long ago. However, his gentle nature made Jian Wushuang's hunting more difficult. In the future, he wanted to kill the buffalo, but he faced a group of people. The strength of a cow is probably more than 10,000 caddies, and dozens of them are hundreds of thousands caddies. It was not caused by him now. Quietly bypassing the territory of buffalo, Jian Wushuang's pace gradually slowed down. Although his vision was a little fuzzy, he still found the injured wild boar based on that force. It was lying under a tree, and the pigtails snapped at the flies around it from time to time. Jian Wushuang licked his lips, and the wild boar was injured. Although he was much weaker than before, it also made him very vigilant and did not sleep at all. Go to hell! He leaned back slightly, holding the spear in one hand, and threw it fiercely. The sound of the spear breaking through the air, as soon as he awakened the wild boar, he pointed straight to the door. Plasma burst, the spear was centered on the skull of the wild boar, there was a terrible cry, and the startled birds scattered on the tree. Although the spear pierced the top of the wild boar's head, it did not make the wild boar fall directly, instead it became more violent than ever. No matter how stupid it was this time, I could see that Jian Wushuang was sneaking on it. The trembling body burst out with astonishing power in an instant, rushing towards Jian Wushuang. Reluctantly, the injury on his hind leg was too serious. Jian Wushuang just turned sideways, then raised his foot and kicked the wild boar's hind leg. Jian Wushuang used his full strength, causing the wild boar's other hind leg to make a crisp sound. This time it should be really broken. Both hind legs were broken, and no matter how strong the wild boar was, he couldn't touch Jian Wushuang at all. Pulling his legs, like a headless fly, chasing Jian Wushuang everywhere. Jian Wushuang looked at the opportunity, jumped up, provoked the height of the battle, grabbed the spear stabbed on the wild boar, and pulled hard. The red and white things stood out and scattered all over the ground. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he stabbed the wild boar's abdomen again, and then, with a single pick, he threw it out several battles and smashed it on the ground fiercely. The wild boar that fell on the ground shook his head, and the blood remained along the front door. He wanted to roar again, but he couldn't make a sound, and couldn't run away. Call! After breathing for a few breaths, its eyes stared at Jian Wushuang, and ran forward again, with 2 fangs sticking into Jian Wushuang's body. This time Jian Wushuang was not evading either. His legs suddenly kicked back, raised his left fist, and blasted towards the wild boar's door with all his strength. Bump! The fist collided with the pig's head, and there was a muffled noise. There was a hole in his head, but now it collided with Jian Wushuang's fist and collapsed directly. Jian Wushuang's entire fist was inserted into the wild boar's forehead, and the 2 fangs were only a little short of touching his body. Except for the last time I struggled a bit, the other times I won it steadily. This time it was also to try the current body and punched the wild boar through the head, which satisfied him. After taking a breath, he turned to look at the other wild boars, with murderous eyes in his eyes, so that they dare not come forward. The valley was so big, a wild boar was killed, and many livestock and even predators were extremely jealous of Jian Wushuang. Ha! Jian Wushuang put the whole wild boar on his shoulders, and with heavy steps, he began to cross the river and headed to the lower reaches. The upper reaches is the habitat of the wolves. He carried such a big wild boar. It is estimated that he will be besieged by the wolves. The water is deep downstream, and there are buffaloes. It is just right to slaughter the wild boars, and the cattle will be his bodyguards. The wolves dare not come over. Jian Wushuang, who had already figured out the entire canyon, found a cave by the water pool downstream and began to slaughter wild boars. He cut the pork, which was 1,000 catties, and prepared to light a fire during the day and eat a meal. He has been eating raw fish these days and he almost vomits. With food and a relatively hidden place to live, Jian Wushuang gradually forgets that he is still a practitioner. Jian Wushuang, with shaggy beard and disheveled hair, is like a savage. However, his body has also undergone obvious changes. Many lines began to appear on the flesh. These lines are not very obvious, but Jian Wushuang can see that it is a strange beast based on the totem drawn by the lines. Spring goes to autumn and winter. Jian Wushuang has been living here for about a year. With the supplement of the first wild boar, he completely settled here. In 1 year he slaughtered the other 6 wild boars. Now his strength has exceeded 30,000 catties. In the upstream waterfall, Jian Wushuang's body was bathed under the rapids of the waterfall, and from time to time there were a lot of broken pieces that smashed on his body along with the water. Chapter 5279. Now those lines on his body are getting clearer and clearer, and the golden lines are very similar to the giants he encountered in the starry sky. There are these lines on the back and chest, and now it has spread to the legs and arms. After washing for almost half an hour, Jian Wushuang left the upstream and returned to the residence downstream. After this year's renovation, the cave can be regarded as a good place. Some of the hides of cattle and sheep were cut by him to make a bed. Since entering here, his living habits are the same as those of mortals. Even if the physical body is so strong now, he will still be sleepy and hungry. Puff! Jian Wushuang took out a piece of charcoal from the black charcoal, blow it hard, and the flame burst out. Crackling. After the fire was set up, Jian Wushuang took out the hind legs of a buffalo and began to put it on top and roast it. After roasting for a while, he took out a sharp stone knife and began to cut the cooked meat on it, feeding it piece by piece to his mouth. Every bite of meat increases his strength. With today's power, he is no longer afraid of wolves. Few animals in this valley can threaten him. The only thing left is the Tiger King living in the woods. The increase of 10 wild boars is comparable to that of a buffalo, and 10 sheep can be comparable to wild boars. This is what he calculated right now. At present, the Tiger King's gain should be the largest. As for the wolves, he doesn't have this idea for the time being. He has eaten a few goats. Since he doesn't need to hide in the flock, he will hunt down some goats that are alone. In 9 years, he had to plan and plan later. He planned to eliminate all the remaining wild boars within this month, and then began hunting buffaloes. Finally, the flock. Put Tiger King at the end. The original rule was to eat all the livestock, which should not be counted as the Tiger King and the wolves, but he didn't dare to gamble, it was best to eat them all. He ate most of the several hundred catties of beef legs in the afternoon. Now he can eat 1,000 catties of meat a day, and under normal circumstances, he can also eat 400 to 500 catties. The greater the power, the greater the demand. In addition to hand-to-hand combat, now he has also learned to arrange traps. There are a lot of traps in the mountains to catch wild boars. If you are lucky, you don't need him to do anything. Jian Wushuang raised his brows and walked out of the cave slowly. A tragic voice came from upstream. Listen to the sound, it should be a wild boar. He walked swiftly along the river and began to go upstream. It's really good luck, it should be the wild boar again. Jian Wushuang's face leaked a smile. It's better not to do it or not to do it. He didn't come here to practice fighting with livestock, but for the flesh. All the animals in this valley, he will do his best to devour them and will never leave a trace. Time is running out. He doesn't have time to hunt head by head. In addition to traps, he will now attack the flock every day. Now that the flocks have become hostile to him, it is hard to find those who are alone, so they can only deal with the big buffaloes. Ox of power, tens of thousands of caddies, fortunately not as agile as a wild boar, he is also very easy to deal with. After running along the river channel for almost a quarter of an hour, I got outside the woods upstream. In the woods, there was nothing except Ryurawau's howling, and even the usual wolves hadn't seen one. There is something strange. Jian Wushuang slowed down, and after exploring around he slowly approached the howling woods. This time he also brought 4 or 5 short spears and a sword cut out of corbel bone. Although there is no origin and divine body now, he still remembers his swordsmanship when he was a mortal. If he really faced a pack of wolves, with his superb swordsmanship, he would really not be afraid of those wolves. Gradually approaching the depths of the woods, he found the howling wild boar, and it was indeed caught in the trap he arranged. The whole body of the wild boar fell into a small cave, and there were a few sharp bones that pierced its body. Jian Wushuang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that there should be no problem at present. But the disappearance of the wolves still made him a little uneasy, so he decided to take the wild boar and leave immediately. The woods upstream have always been the chassis of the wolves. Now I have not seen these wolves. There is only one situation: either they are all dead or they are driven away by other animals. Jian Wushuang was even more convinced that the wolves were driven away by something, and the strongest in the entire valley should be the Tiger King. The wild boar can't drive away the wolves. Jian Wushuang cautiously came to the wild boar, with short hair in his hand, and pierced the wild boar's lifeline with one blow, and instantly closed his eyes. After hunting so many heads, he already knew the weakness of the opponent. After more than a year, he has already gotten used to all this. Pulling the wild boar's ear with one hand, he pulled it out of the trap, and the explosive force caused the ground to sink. The next moment, Jian Wushuang suddenly stopped what was in his hands, slowly put down the wild boar. His eyes became sharp. An extremely low roar came from deep in the throat, and the dead leaves on the trembling treetops fell, hitting Jian Wushuang's eyebrows. It was a pack of wolves. Jian Wushuang took out a short spear and turned his head slightly. 7 or 8 wild wolves appeared behind him. There are also a few in front of them, and you don't need to look at them. The wild wolves on both sides also leaked fierce and evil eyes. The time to come is always coming. He dared to start entering the valley. These wild wolves still don't care. After all, he is the only one, but now his hunting has threatened the wolves. Wolf. This animal has a particularly strong sense of crisis. Jian Wushuang, as a hunter, has seriously threatened them. Even the mantis tricks of catching the cicada and the oriole were used on Jian Wushuang. The low roar made people shudder. Jian Wushuang, who had only a physical body at this time, was still struggling to deal with wolves. He was not yet familiar with the power of these wolves. Move gently, holding a short spear in each hand, ready to do it at any time. In an instant, the surrounding wolves rushed in an instant, like a gust of wind. A straddle was several battles away, and Jian Wushuang had to retreat. But now there is no way to retreat. I can only choose a better way to go, and prepare to go out. Taking a step forward, Jian Wushuang spotted a lone wolf that had fallen behind, thrust out a spear, killing him instantly, then quickly turned around and left the position he had just now. It was just a time to turn around, and several wild wolves attacked the position just now very fast. Sneak attack, trap, round up. These wild wolves came prepared. It seems that this time they want to stay here. In the time of fighting with a stick of incense, Jian Wu had all the short spears in his hands, killing a few wild wolves, and there was no short spear in his hand, only a bone sword was left. A bone sword made of ox bone, 3 feet long, without a trace. The swordsmanship of ordinary times, Jian Wushuang was like a heart, and the tip of the sword spiraled around. Chapter 5280. And on Jian Wushuang's back, the wild wolf also rushed 3 blood into Linlin's mouth. The blood was left along the back. The flesh turned out hideous and terrifying. The 3-foot sword was in his hands and was fully utilized. For a time, neither of the two parties can ask for much bargain. I really underestimated these beasts. Jian Wushuang retreated to a towering ancient tree, and the bone sword was placed in front of him, covering his eyes, and he could only observe the wild wolf in front of him from under the sword. Jian Wushuang felt very familiar with this scene. He felt as if he had drawn his sword 100,000 times, every time he was under the tree at this moment. Now he didn't have that much inspiration. When the wild wolf pounced, his body turned back and his toes lightly stepped on the trunk, his body rushing out like a dragon. Catch the thief first. In terms of tactics, these wild wolves are much worse. He had been staring at the Wolf King a long time ago, but he dared not leak the killing intent in his eyes, so he would be spotted by the wolves, so he covered his eyes with a sword and kept staring at the lower body of the Wolf King. This jump was several tens of feet, and went straight to the position of the Wolf King. Only then did the wolves react, but it was too late. A sort of cold light. The Wolf King's huge head rolled to the ground, while Jian Wushuang's figure was standing in the position of the Wolf King, looking at the other wild wolves with cold eyes. The Wolf King died, and these wild wolves didn't know whether they should take revenge or retreat. Now that the wolves are half dead and injured, if they really want to fight, they must be extinct today. Just when the two sides were hesitant, Jian Wushuang felt a chill on his back, which was a great horror. The wolves also noticed the problem and wanted to escape, but it was too late. A big yellow-spotted tiger rushed out and solved a wild wolf in one bite, and then ran around, completely dispersing the killed wolves. Tiger King Jian Wushuang was sweating coldly behind his back. In just an instant, half of the wolves were resolved. Depending on the level of agility, it was still above. In terms of strength, slapping an ancient tree with a diameter of a battle with one palm is definitely more than 100,000 caddies. He is definitely not an opponent. Escape! Jian Wushuang has only one thought in his mind right now, that is to leave the Green Hills without fear of firewood, so hurry up. According to his current speculation, after eating the cattle, it would almost be able to break through 100,000 caddies. It is not the time to deal with the Tiger King. He was swiftly paced, jumping constantly, and the Tiger King, who had already dealt with the wolves, stood on a mossy stone, looking at Jian Wushuang's back, and his pale yellow eyes were full of killing intent. In the valley, the wolf pack and the Tiger King have always maintained a delicate relationship. Now that the wolf pack is finished because of Jian Wushuang, if Jian Wushuang is also wiped out, then the entire valley belongs to the Tiger King. The cattle and sheep are its back garden. It stood on the stone and screamed at Jian Wushuang's back. Wuthering mountain forest, let the birds fly away from the forest. Tiger King's speed is much faster than Jian Wushuang, and one step is tens of feet. The chase of the two in the woods is very conspicuous. It's over, Jian Wushuang said secretly, and his figure stopped instantly. There is a cliff in front and a waterfall upstream. At a height of 1,000 feet, if he jumps down, he will die forever. Tiger King also slowed down and began to look around Jian Wushuang. Fighting can happen at will in the moment of change. Jian Wushuang casually tore a broken step strip from his body, wiped the blade, ready to fight to the death. The ordinary swordsmanship, I don't know if he can deal with this Tiger King, but now he has no choice. Huang looked at it for a moment, as if he could see Jian Wushuang's flaws, and accompanied by a low roar, it took the lead to leap forward to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wuduan faced the blood basin with a big mouth, and it was too late to turn around. Brandishing a bone sword, the white sword body was like a streamer. Reluctantly turned over by Jingguang to escape the attack. Tiger King also used a pair of tiger palms to disrupt the sharp sword light. When the two separated, Tiger King flicked his tail and directly knocked the bone sword down from Jian Wushuang's hands. How clever the Tiger King is, he discovered Jian Wushuang's reliance in a fight. If there is no bone sword, it can't stop it from biting. Jian Wushuang only felt his wrists numb, and the bone sword came out of his hand and fell aside. How could he stop thinking about this, and smash Tiger King's back severely with his left fist? The explosive power of this punch tens of thousands of caddies directly shook the tiger's sight out of several battles. He also took the opportunity to step back a few steps, held his right arm, and then healed for a while. This animal's skin is really thick. Jian Wushuang gritted his teeth and shook his wrist. His punch was enough to kill a buffalo, and the enchantment hit the Tiger King, but it didn't have much effect. Now the bone sword in his hand was also lost. It would be very unfavorable for him to fight again. Fortunately, with the first experience and the next few bites, he escaped without danger. Call. His breath began to be gradually unstable, and it consumed too much, and there was no power to supplement it. Only now this physical strength is still too far away. This is mundane. Physical strength is the first step. The strength is only more than 30,000 caddies, which is accumulated on the flesh, but it is just opening up. The veins have not been opened yet. In this first exercise, he really didn't see anything special. Novel. Even if all the animals in the canyon were slaughtered and eaten dry, he would increase his strength by 1,000,000 caddies. Superimposed on the flesh, at most, it can open up 108 veins, making his flesh reach the extreme in the mundane. This is just the mundane stage. This strength of the physical body, let alone cultivating immortals, even a cultivator can defeat it at will. This is not what he wants. Too weak. Although it was only the first exercise, it was still too weak and not in his expectation. Feeling the wound on his back, the hot pain, made Jian Wushuang a lot of sweat or blood on his forehead. On the brow, a hideous hole was shocking. It can't be delayed any longer. Jian Wushuang's heart is full, and he will definitely fight to the death. Tiger King bowed his head, a pair of pale yellow eyes, filled with evil spirits. A gust of wind hit, and the Tiger King jumped and killed again. Jian Wushuang didn't hide this time, and he didn't have much strength to hide. His legs bent and his body leaned back. See the bone sword not far from the ground. There was a tension in his mind. When the Tiger King rushed forward, he rushed to the Tiger King's abdomen with a sliding shovel, picked up the bone sword on the ground and made a stab towards the Tiger King's abdomen. With this sword, he used up all his strength, holding the bone sword firmly in both hands, and with the help of the Tiger King's impact, the bone sword made a few feet in the Tiger King's abdomen. The hot blood spilled over Jian Wushuang. The Tiger King's body fell heavily to the ground, and he couldn't die again. Jian Wushuang let go of the bone sword, limp on the ground, panting heavily. Tiger blood flowed into his mouth along the corner of his mouth, making his blood boil, and his whole body was transforming. Chapter 5281. In this battle, Jian Wushuang was completely clear about all his opponents. The entire valley will be his back garden, and within 10 years, it will be easy to clear all the livestock. In addition to the Tiger King's body, he also took all the wolf heads to the cave. This time, the receipt was enough to save him from hunting for 3 months, just polishing his body. The flesh and blood power of livestock is very strong. Even after eating them, Jian Wushuang needs to polish his flesh and absorb all the flesh and blood essence. For example, Tiger King's blood is simply a tonic to his body. The bones of the whole person have changed, and the golden lines on the body have become more obvious. In the following days, he polished his body wholeheartedly, absorbed the essence of the Tiger King, and made his physical power break through to 100,000 in one fell swoop. It's still not enough. Jian Wushuang looked at the bones all over the floor, somewhat helpless. I thought that this Tiger King would at least make his body stronger, but he didn't expect to increase his strength in the end. The changes in the bones have not changed much. After all, it is not a treasure of genius. As the flesh became stronger and stronger, the livestock in the valley could no longer threaten him. Whenever he was hungry, he would hunt and kill a buffalo. Eat the freshest if you want. Time is fast, and 10 years have passed in just a few seconds. Jian Wushuang gnawed on the last rib of the lamb and burped. Now he, like a savage, was completely dark and ragged. In this valley he was left with a breather. Jian Wushuang, an extremely burly figure, just ordinary walking made a big earthquake tremble, and every step was a heaviness of hundreds of thousands of caddies. On the last day, Jian Wushuang stood on the top of the cliff, where he had fought with the Tiger King, and glanced around the valley. These 10 years have been the most special time since he entered the practice. Completely lived as a savage. In the hundreds of millions of years in the starry sky, at least his strength was still there. In this valley he was a mortal when he first arrived, and even a wild boar could bully him. Now I'm leaving, take one last look. The next moment he jumped directly into the bottomless pool. The sturdy body became clear. Today he seems to have been reborn. His bones are very large, and on his clear and clean chest and back, golden lines appear. The harder he was, the more prominent the golden lines became. The golden pattern outlines an ancient beast, even Jian Wushuang doesn't know it. In the magic column, outside the trial tower, the middle-aged man in black armor, with a little in his hand, a streamer turned into 100,000 rays, and flew into the trial tower. Each ray of light turns into a black-clothed messenger, attracting 100,000 Jian Wushuang in the trial tower. In the end, the golden light turned into 1 point, and the 100,000 avatars also turned into Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, who returned to the demon suppression pillar, was no different from when he first entered. The madness and extinction armor on his body is still there. This is... Jian Wushuang was speechless. At the moment of fusion, he realized that he had split 100,000 clones. Don't be surprised, you have completed half of the first exercise. The black-armored man said lightly. Jian Wushuang hurriedly put away his armor, leaking a black suit, and then with a slight force, he directly shattered his coat. Looking at his chest again, the golden lines are extremely dazzling, and every inch of his body is outlined. The Wanbei divine body is also running wildly at this moment. The divine body and the origin all returned, and the familiar sense of manipulation completely pulled Jian Wushuang back to reality. Jian Wushuang asked in surprise, "Senior, is all this illusory?" He couldn't believe it. It was obvious that the physical body had been strengthened, but he felt that everything was not real, especially the incarnation of 100,000 copies of the same memory, without any deviation. This is also amazing. The black-armored man smiled slightly and replied, "Advanced Cosmic Copper Furnace. When your first training is completely completed, I will answer you again. You have not completed even half of it now. After the physical body is truly condensed and tempered, it will be the first. Alien. Indeed, if Supergrade's physical body is so simple, it won't stop so many strong people. How could the process of tempering the Supergrade physical body be so simple as the threshold of the 10,000 times divine body?" Jian Wushuang nodded. He also understood that after entering the first floor of the trial tower, he could use nothing, just a first-order mortal. The threshold for refining a supergrade physical body is a tens of thousands of times the divine body, but it is not necessary to enter the trial tower divine body, which is obviously unreasonable. I am afraid that the threshold of the 10,000 times divine body is in this universe copper furnace. His hair is flying, his upper body is naked, and his skeletal back is like a of war. The edges and corners of the muscles are also particularly distinct. Click. The cosmic copper furnace was opened. The scorching air wave came over the surface. This arrogance was enough to annihilate Dian Immortal, but he was about to enter the tempering for a whole hour. If there is no tens of thousands of times the divine body, I am afraid that there will be no ashes left to be refined within a quarter of an hour. Jian Wushuang swallowed, his lips were a little dry. After bowing to the black-armored man, he stepped into the copper furnace with a firm look in his eyes. After entering the copper furnace, he felt what purgatory was. That burning sensation is not as simple as a ground fire. In this cosmic copper furnace, there is an incomplete source. Jian Wushuang just sat cross-legged on the red ground. He felt a beating of origin. It turned out to be an unowned source. Jian Wu was overjoyed. For a time, a bold idea came out of my mind. At first he thought that the origin was from the black-armored senior outside, but now it seems that this origin was injected into the inside by other powerful beings. Before he had time to think about it, The moment the cosmic copper furnace was shut down, the flames rose. But countless treasures were taken out by him, and these were the treasures needed during the first refining. With so many treasures, Immortal Dian's body can be directly promoted to low-grade consummation. The treasures of the first 3 refinements were able to refine a perfect flesh that was stronger than the Emperor Malung. This is still a direct improvement. If there are cosmic copper furnaces to help temper the body, I am afraid that his body will be comparable to the middle-grade perfect body in the first refining. Jian Wushuang no longer thought about other things. Countless treasures were refined into a golden liquid by the flame and began to revolve around his body. The scorching flames constantly eroded his flesh. Let his body rot again, and finally recovered again. This way over and over again, no matter how powerful the divine body is, it can't stand the consumption like this. In particular, he has now expanded the beast god domain to the limit. Although the scope has been reduced to cover only the flesh, the expendable power and divine power are the same. An hour is really the limit. Jian Wushuang gritted his teeth, which was more painful than he thought. Once the body is broken, 1 point is strengthened. He needs to be broken 100,000 times. The swallowed essence and blood of hundreds of thousands of heavens now needs to be merged into one. How simple it is. They are tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.